Good afternoon. I'm Eula Clark, Mayor of the City of Stuart, calling to order the special meeting of the Stuart City Commission, July 29, 2021, 4:30 p.m. Our Commission chambers at 121 Southwest Flagler Avenue. The purpose of our meeting is our budget workshop number 2. Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Mayor Clark,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Matheson,
Here.
Commissioner Bruner. Here. Commissioner McDonald.
Here.
Commissioner Meyer.
Here.
So let's stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, and we'll have our budget director lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Or budget director or finance
So
director?
that we will remember this
Whatever she
day.
wants to call me.
Solo?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Mr. W.
Yes.
Any comments by city commissioners? Okay, we'll have a chance.
have a
Mr.
comment.
Matheson?
It's about the budget meeting cycle, so I guess this is the appropriate time and I feel like next year, I prefer to shift the meeting schedule a little bit so that the timing of this meeting will be the first workshop. For the past few years, I've felt like the earlier first workshop we've had hasn't had enough information or data that's solidified the timing of the year to be really worth our time and worth staff's time to bring it up. For me, I think it'd be more beneficial to have 2 workshops closer together, but with known information about the budget, with all the departments have submitted, where the city manager examined them, where we know what the numbers we're getting for the upcoming fiscal year. So, those are just my thoughts on that for the next cycle. It is helpful to know the dates of the workshops, but I don't see the real benefit in having one earlier in the summer as opposed to having one almost, a second one after this would be more beneficial when we have that large amount of known information.
Thank you, Vice Mayor, and I see what you're saying is after the money, the numbers are received from the property appraisers, and we can be more intelligent as to what a proposed millage or if anything is happening. So, I guess we'll have time before next year to,
Yeah,
well, on
definitely.
that. Oops.
I'm the loudest one in the room.
Thank you. And I had something that I wanted to bring up at this budget workshop. It's not in the budget, but as a representative on the Regional Planning Council, many communities, especially in Palm Beach County, and I think also St. Lucie County, I think only Martin County and Stuart and maybe municipalities in Stuart haven't really attacked this issue, and that is finding a way to officially give either a floating holiday or official holiday for May the 20th for Florida Emancipation Day for employees, as well as the federal holiday now of Juneteenth, which is there. And I think I've asked City Manager to look into it. And I got some information from the Regional Planning Council. I just recently sent it to him. But I think that when the time comes, we can discuss that maybe at the second workshop.
I addressed it today.
Okay, okay. All right, so anybody else, is Ms. Bruner here? Ms. Bruner, do you have any comments at this time? No, Mayor. Okay, thank you. All right, City Manager?
No comments, just ready for item 1.
Okay, Clerk, we're going to be asking for approval of the agenda.
Move for approval of the agenda.
Second?
Moved by Commissioner McDonald, seconded by Commissioner Meyer. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, thank you. Do we have any comments on the agenda? No, it's okay. We're not changing anything.
They
Do you have any
public
comments from the public? I don't have any green cards, but the rule, well, not the rule, but you can make comments now, and of course, we're going to be having a presentation there's no real, there'll be presentation and probably discussion. But I think that people are not gonna, they're gonna reserve until they hear. Can I ask the commission if we can, either add to the agenda or, because it must been approved, or allow, persons to ask us questions after we've had the presentation?
You'll see in the presentation where I'm going to ask you for a motion at the end of this, so then there'll be public comment.
There'll be a time for public comment on that, the motion on the millage not to
Yes.
exceed and so on.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, no problem. I'm glad to see everyone here. Looks like all department heads, so I'm very glad for that.
I'd like to point out
Thank you.
that Tim and Milton dressed up for the occasion.
Thank
Mil-
you.
Milton bought a new shirt.
Yeah,
Thank you so much.
look good.
I see our fire department. Is our, police department here?
No, they're not here.
I can't see in these glasses, I'm sorry. I'm pretend I can't see. Okay, thank you, chief, okay.
She clearly likes fire better.
Will I take up
Thank
half the
you
room?
so much. Who else is here? Officer Shine, thank you.
Lieutenant Shine.
Lieutenant Shine. Thank you so much, and we have our, community members, Miss Nancy Terrell, Main Street, and Stuart downtown, Mr. Breckbrill. Thank you very much. Thank you so much. I'd love to see the fire department. Thank you so much. Thank you. So this is a time to, have the presentation of the FY 2022 budget, for review, and that would be Mr. Boglioli.
Nope,
No, sorry.
this one's mine.
Okay, sorry.
He gets
I'm
to give you the
sorry.
doom and gloom, and I get to give you the,
I'm going by, I'm trying. I need to go get my other glasses, but that's okay. Thank you. Budget workshop number 2, is it all up there?
nope, I'm ready. Are you ready?
Thank you, yes, sir.
Madam Clerk, are you able to pick them up? Are you getting them on the recording? Yep, okay, thank you. Madam Mayor, Vice Mayor, Commissioners, it's my pleasure to present you with the fiscal year 2022 budget presentation. And we'll start with talking about the American Rescue Plan Act, also known as ARP or ARPA. As I've been dredging through a lot of information as it relates to the Treasury guidelines that's coming out. When this was first initiated, there were 4 funding focus areas, and they are to support urgent COVID-19 response efforts, replace lost public sector revenue, support immediate economic stabilization, and address systemic health, public health, and economic challenges. In the beginning, when it came out, that was it, and they're labeled ABCD with the outcome. And obviously, when you're giving that out to a nation of people, if people want to know what does that mean? What does it exactly mean? So as time has progressed, the Treasury Department and many other agencies, the GFOA, which is the financial organizations that our department belongs to, have been releasing fact sheets, FAQs. And most of those are coming around organizations who are asking questions of the Treasury as to what can be spent and what the funding can be spent for. And while that's going on, these spending areas still are allocated under the ABCD, but they're expanding their scope under what each of those items mean. So Stuart's projected allocation is $6.4 million over 2 years, so it'll be delivered in 2 tranches. So the $3.2 million should come to us this year. As a matter of fact, it should come to us by the end of July, today. And then the next allotment would come next year, around the same time period. There is an extended period of time to utilize the funding. I believe it's through 2024, with the end of reporting out in 2026. The eligible uses that have a little more expansion to them is to support the public health response, address negative economic impacts, premium pay for essential workers, replace public sector revenue loss again, water, sewer, broadband infrastructure, which also includes stormwater, and equity-focused services. Interestingly enough, the day after the county staff presented their ARP funding recommendations to the county, 160-page revision came out from the Treasury on what you can spend funds on, and so now they're having to go back to the table and reevaluate if all of their programs meet the new 160 pages, which I just got, I think it was yesterday that I just got that. So I'll be evaluating to make sure that our recommendations also meet those guidelines again, giving it another look to make sure that we're still within the legal rights of what we're asking for.
Are you testifying that you read that 100?
No, not yet. I just got it yesterday.
Okay.
I'll have Mike read it.
He reads fast.
Yes, he does.
City attorney gets $6.4 million.
Yeah,
Somebody else read it, please.
that's what the paper
That's
says.
the direction. I don't know what else to say.
Mike, if you cut finance in, I can make that happen.
Stormwater.
So what you're going to see today for the recommendation for the ARP funding is reflected in the budget that you have in your agenda packet. So those funds are already allocated in there, except for the affordable housing. So that has been left out of the current budget cycle because that would be an appropriation through the year when the commission decides what to do specifically with that funding. All of the other items are actually appropriated in the budget for expense and revenued within the budget to offset that expense. So these are the recommended allocations by staff, and by staff I mean me. Investment in public facilities to meet pandemic operational needs. That's a $2 million investment to provide access in North Stuart to a city facility that can be used for testing, vaccination, and healthcare provision. Emergency medical response, which is $346,000 for expansion of advanced life support transportation. PPE and ventilation improvements of $354,000, which is to purchase personal protective equipment and ventilation system improvements to increase the delivery of clean air and dilute potential contaminants. And then affordable housing for the disadvantaged is an allocation of $500,000 towards a disadvantaged for affordable housing project or multiple projects.
Mike, can I ask you a question? PPE, I guess most of that is disposable and it's not something that's going to last
Correct.
for the future.
Correct.
Yeah.
It's mostly, gloves, masks, personal protective equipment.
Madam Mayor, can I ask a quick question?
Yes, sir.
I noticed, so you just touched on it, but I noticed in the revenue side, we have listed as appropriated the 2.6 some odd, leaving off the housing.
Yes.
So we're not going to count it towards revenues now? So how does that work? I mean, can we claim it right now, knowing that we're going to eventually
We will get
appropriate it?
No, we will get it, but we won't, so it'll be like in a reserve fund or not a recognized fund until you guys appropriate it.
Okay.
So when it's appropriated through a budget amendment is when we'll recognize it on the expense side.
So we're not able to, because we do balanced budgeting, we can't list it as a revenue knowing that we're planning 500,000 for affordable housing down the road without appropriating it specifically to a project?
Well, no, if we show it as the revenue at this point, we'd be out of balance.
Okay. Just want to make sure we don't miss the boat on it.
Right, no, we won't miss the boat. We're
Okay.
gonna get,
We're
when they
getting
give
the
it to
money.
us, I mean, they contacted me the other day for clarification on our federal DUNS number, so that means they're getting very close to getting it to us. When they give it to us, they're giving us the whole 3.2 at one shot, dropped in Julie's pocket.
Big pocket.
Yeah.
Okay,
You know,
I got you.
Take that in small bills.
Moving out of the ARP and onto the meat and potatoes of today's budget workshop. I call this the Inquisition-style budget workshop. We started this, I believe it was last year, yeah, under Mayor Meyer at the time, to where department directors will come up and present, discuss, and you guys have the opportunity to speak with them. So the fiscal year 2022 budget is currently balanced as it stands. However, we do not have the communications services tax information in yet. Jolie just checked that when he sat at the table, and it's still not been displayed on the state's website. So we're still waiting for that number to come in. We don't anticipate it's going to go lower, but we won't know until they update it. I am recommending the millage rate remain at the 5.00 rate, which is what our current rate is. And at the conclusion of today's workshop, I would ask for a motion for a not to exceed millage rate so that we can fill out the DD 214, DR 214 form for the truth in millage. Looking at our staff and staff compensation, we are experiencing a health insurance rate increase Many organizations are experiencing a health insurance increase. As a matter of fact, our increase is the lowest of all of the organizations around us. The city and employees will have a 4.3% increase in premium costs, so we're sharing in that cost. None of the other items besides health insurance increase, so the dental, vision, and the others remain the same. There is my recommendation of a general wage increase of October 1 of 3% and an evaluation merit increase of 2% for non-bargaining staff. If you look at the chart to the left there, you'll see that's the 12-month Southern Region rolling CPI. The current CPI is at 5.8 that went
Madam
up
Mayor?
in June.
Yes, sir, Mr. McDonald?
On the health insurance increases, the reason ours is so much lower than other ones is because of the health clinic. Are we still being successful with that?
We are successful with it, but these other entities who had increases also have
Yeah,
health.
I mean, I know we're getting increases, but I remember when we were getting double-digit increases, so
Yes.
it's in high double digits. So, so keeping it 4.3%, I think is actually pretty good, so.
It is, and you know, we have obviously staff to thank for that because it's their health and involvement with their own health well-being that helps keep that lower because we have less
Working
claims
on those
experience.
WOW programs.
Yeah, that does help.
Regular running helps.
Oh, who's running?
I thought mountain biking helped, but I think I was wrong.
Madam Mayor, may I ask a question
Yes,
before
sir,
we move on?
Mr. Meyer.
Regarding the employee compensation. As I looked through well, first of all, I just wanted to say I think it's great that we are now being fully transparent about salary for all employees. That was awesome. So I went through and looked at everybody, and I noticed in certain cases where I did see year-over-year increase in the salary, but many times no, and then I saw some special pay here and there. Is the 3% increase being accounted for by special pay, or?
No, so we calculate it out on every employee, and then we take it and we stick it into a lump sum category.
Okay.
Then as it's distributed, it's transferred to the department.
So with that, then, that probably answers one of my questions for later on about having a big chunk of change in non-operating.
Correct.
Okay, there we go. All right, get it.
Okay, so then, just to compare the two, because some people will say, okay, well, I'm getting a 4.3% increase on my health insurance, and, you know, it's gonna get eaten up. Well, it's on the actual premium of the health insurance, so if you take the basic, if you're an employee or staff member who has the basic health insurance program now, your premium of $30 per paycheck would go to $31.30, which equals roughly $33 per year, to where the total package of the 5% increase on, say, a $50,000 salary is a $2,500 increase. So it's proportionate to the premium cost. It's not, you know, the percentages will, you know, confuse folks sometimes. And on all non-bargaining ranges, we'll adjust to stay ahead of the mandatory minimum wage increases. And I've been speaking with Human Resources about that and how we're going to implement those range moves. Where in the past, we've increased staff's pay within the range because we're trying to stay ahead of the new minimum wage state law requirements. We want to start taking the ranges up along with the adjustment. So whether that's a 3% at the beginning of the year to match the COLA side of it, or if we wait till the end of the year and do the full 5, we want to stay ahead of that minimum wage rate increase so that we're staying ahead of
Is that to
the.
avoid compression?
Yes, yeah, so if all the ranges move at the same time, we don't end up having a compression issue.
Okay.
And, you know, Roz sent me this really long email today that I stopped reading about the whole compression thing and the whole 3% issue, so.
Very, very exciting reading.
Yes, yes. And then to address the Juneteenth, we will be adding it as an optional holiday for the non-bargaining staff. So we will be recognizing that as a recognized holiday, but taking it as an optional holiday. That helps us some with overtime issues and so forth with actually naming a holiday and taking the actual day off. However, employees could use that as their day off if they so choose and use that optional holiday.
And would the Florida Emancipation Day?
That was not a recognized federal holiday, so we did not add that in. I mean, currently, I think this will make us at 12 holidays, I believe, is what the total would be at with adding this one in.
And when you say optional, it's not necessarily a paid holiday, but you may choose to use a PTO day.
No, it is a paid holiday. It's over and above their PTO time.
Okay.
So but they have the option to take it any day throughout the year that they want, and they have to take it within that year. So I think currently they have 2, and this will make the third
What's the
option.
Well, will we be working on June 19th each year?
Yeah, the buildings would be open under an optional holiday situation. A named holiday, let's say Christmas, is the buildings and the city's actually closed.
I got it, okay.
With the 3%,
I know, I think it's the 2.
This would be 2 now. It was 2. That would be
Went down to
now, right.
Okay, so yeah, this will take us up to 2, I apologize. We went down to 1, now this will take us back up to 2.
Floating holidays.
Optional holidays.
Oh, sorry.
Yes, ma'am, optional holidays.
Okay, Mr. Meyer, Vice Mayor?
does the 3% start at the beginning of the fiscal year as that increase, or has that been decided, or is that on the employee's anniversary?
So the 3% is with the fiscal year, October 1, and the 2% is a merit increase, so that would be their anniversary evaluation.
Okay.
And that's providing they hit a certain score on their evaluation?
Yeah, I'm not sure what that is yet. I haven't
Yeah.
talked that over with Ross, but yes. Any other questions on that before I move on?
You said transparency, that's city manager, city attorney, or you're different from everybody else, just for the public?
Oh,
right?
the 3% is included in the city manager and city attorney's contract, however, the 2% is not.
Okay, just bringing that up.
Right.
I'll bring, yes, a comment now. So that's all the employees, the only, besides city commissioners.
Correct.
And the union employees?
And the union employees.
But the union employees have a separate contract?
Yes.
So
Can I,
I know I raised this last year, my push to
bring back
get a
that?
discussion on of line item on the ballot as a referendum, capping any city commission pay as an increase over, say, 3% or what and we discussed it, and I wasn't successful. But my fear is that if commission pay isn't contemplated as
get into the
a
same-
standard increase, in the future, you're gonna get in the same predicament that I did not like, where the commission goes out and gives themselves a large pay increase of 50% or something like that. So, you know, I'd like to hear everyone's thoughts on that. I mean, the way, in my mind, to prevent that is to keep, you know, if you allocate a,
Across the
you
board?
know, pay raise to all city employees, it truly goes to all city employees, and I understand the collective bargaining. I'm certainly okay, you know, with that not happening again, but I'd like some sort of preventative measure. You know, if that doesn't happen, we've seen what'll happen in the past, and I'd really like to try and prevent that from happening.
Thank you. Mr. Boglioli? So we have 5 of us here, we have a standard salary, it's about 18,000. And if we do a 3% every year, is it every year?
Only when a GWI is
When
for
what?
Only when
all
it's a
staff.
GWI occurs.
Yes.
Yeah, okay. What are we talking about, Mr. Boglioli?
Well, I mean, for you guys.
$540.
Right, but it's, in the past, the commission did participate in the COLAs, so this is not any kind of GWI or COLA, they did. So the years that the employees' COLAs were frozen, so was the commission's. At the time of the last increase, you were at about $12,000 a year, about $1,000 a month, and that had not moved, and previous commissions had elected to stay out of the COLAs for a couple of years, so you actually had missed several scheduled increases if you had kept the practice of taking the GWI when the manager puts one in for the regular employees.
Thank you. Mr. Martell, is that a budget item, or is that something that is a policy that needs to be changed with a charter or something?
It's totally a budget item.
I mean, but do we have language in the charter? Do we need to put language?
The charter doesn't have any finance in it at all. It says the commissioners shall be paid. set the pay rate when you vote.
No.
It is to change the.
I think Mr. Matheson is saying that he wants to have some language somewhere,
Well, we-
that
We didn't amend
guidelines.
the charter to that effect, that's not in the charter.
That was a charter question that didn't go forward.
My push last year when we were discussing charter amendments was that
Referendum.
anything above a COLA given to all city employees had to be a referendum for our increase. That was my desire, to prevent a commission-driven 50% pay
Okay,
raise.
so if we had a policy, that would be the
We don't
policy. But if it
have-
falls within it, then it's okay, it's a normal increase if it doesn't go above that.
Everything proposed today so far is completely standard operating procedure as it has been. It doesn't violate the charter in any way.
Okay, that's fine. Thank you. Please continue, sir.
So based on Vice Mayor's discussion, I mean, it's really the pleasure of the board if you want to be included in the GWI.
Vice Mayor?
I do not.
Let me,
I am perfectly fine with taking a pass on it again, but what I'd really like us to consider is a preventative measure in the future. I guess, as it stands, we've missed the charter amendment to do that, so that really, the only way to do that, it could change with any given change of the commission votes.
I would somewhat agree with that, but I'm not sure what Mr. McDonald's objection is, but I'd say that I'd also probably like if there's policy that could be put in that says that if there's opportunity every 2 years or every 5 years, when we have our population increase and our area changes, if we could do what we did the last time, and I know that people say, oh, they're trying to get a big budget increase, but we have to have some policies, because if that doesn't work, let's say it doesn't work, Mr. McDonald, what do? Do we come in and say we need to now do a survey and see what other people in our area are doing, and then we have that issue that we had before? So I think we need to have some policy that says that if we have this 3%, fine, but every 4 years or every 3 years or whatever, we need to look at the amount. And I don't know, I mean,
what
I'm
it's-
not,
for what it's
nobody's
worth,
in here
the-
to keep going
right.
up with their salary.
For what it's worth, the policy since my recollection, the 90s, and Jolie can correct me if I'm wrong, has been that the commission's primary responsibility is to review the budget on an annual basis. And in reviewing that budget, the commission has also included their own salaries. There has never been a time in the history of Stuart that the commission was accused of malfeasance or misfeasance or misappropriately adjusting a budget. There was some question a few years ago about the timing of a budget, but even with that, when the Stuart News wrote the article, they didn't even address the amount. It was a timing thing, and they felt like the timing was off. So from a standpoint of fixing a problem, Vice Mayor's correct. There are stories, and we read about them all the time. There was a California city that commissioners were paying themselves like $400,000 a year. And ridiculous things do happen. But we have a very involved community. I don't think that you guys could get away with that for more than about 10 seconds. But for what it's worth, the policy has always been that you guys get a full budget every year, you approve it, and historically, as the finance director pointed out, the commission, in order to avoid the situation where you have to do this case studies or whatever it is every 4 or 5 years, has included the commission in the consumer price index increases. The only thing the commission hasn't included in is the evaluation increases, because there's nobody to give the evaluation. So it simply doesn't lend itself to a procedure for that, because in theory, the fact that they're elected means that they got an approved or a satisfactory evaluation.
Okay, either Mr. McDonald or Mr. Meyer. Was it Mr. Meyer?
yeah, I have a
Okay.
couple of questions and comments. I understand where you're coming from, Vice Mayor, and I'm open to the idea. I think that is a good sort of simple solution to help keep pace. I think, though, that 3%, 3% over time, save $550 this year, and, you know, it's not an incredibly large jump. And I don't think I don't know if we're gonna be giving GWI every year, across the board to all employees. Is that usually?
It's year to year.
It's year to year.
Yeah.
I'm open to it. I think it could help solve some of that pressure to, you know, every 5 to 10 years, suddenly commissioners feeling like they need to grant themselves a large increase. I guess I just want to better understand, and I have no experience with this, but, you know, the salary is the one thing. How would this impact retirement contributions? Is there? Same thing, right? It would be a 3%?
It's the 3% increase in the salary will mean that if you have $10,000 one year and $11,000 the next year, the average of those two is $10,500, and if that was a 5-year average, then the retirement would be based upon that. But when
Is this per person or total?
It's all fine.
So all 5 benefits, everything included, is $1,732.
At the 3%
At this
for
current,
everybody.
this current 3%.
which includes the contribution.
Right.
Now, how do we, if that's included in our budget, that's fine, but do we need language? We don't need language, except that if it's over and above, then it would be, but there's no charter that.
Well,
there's
that's
no
what
language
the
that
charter
says that.
amendment
Yeah,
I
there's
was
no-
putting was anything
Yeah.
above the COLA increase for all employees would have to go to a referendum.
May-
And maybe we could make that a motion by the commission, but in theory, if it's not in the charter,
Do it
the
2 years
commission can
from now.
vote that to change
For
at any
elections
time.
next year.
Well, maybe I can suggest this. I'm open to it. We've talked a little bit about it. We know Commissioner McDonald's not open to it. We haven't heard Commissioner Bruner yet, but maybe we can chew on it a little bit, think about it a little bit, have the budget presentation, and then we go back and
Thank you.
communicate with the community. And, you know, we've fired this opening shot, talk to the community, see what they think about this idea, and then, you know, I'm not prepared to instruct staff to bake that into the budget at this meeting right now. But I like the idea. I think it's a good opening for discussion.
Policy would have no impact on this budget.
Yes, yes.
I'm not talking about the policy, I'm talking about,
The 3% for the.
Planning
Adding
for
it
it
in
right
and
now.
baking it in right now. Yeah, I get what you're saying.
so maybe this is an opportunity for us to, I'm separating out the idea of creating a policy that we're gonna make a motion on and vote on,
I like it.
okay?
Next year's elections.
I appreciate, I'm glad you brought it up, Commissioner, or Vice Mayor, I didn't think about that.
Yeah, there's no place for me to put
We
it.
could have had it on the referendum this year, but that's okay.
Well, I mean, it was discussed at the Charter Review Committee, and it wasn't something that was
Yeah.
decided to put forward by the citizens.
That's fine. Thank you. Could you continue, please, City Manager?
Yes, okay, take a deep breath. New employee positions request for this year. We're looking at a 13 position increase. And these departments happen to be the same ones who are selected to come up and talk with you during the department director discussions. And so I'll just run down them real quick. So the first 3 are all coming out of the Water and Sewer Fund, and they primarily have to do with the grinder team, but I'll have Tim talk about that a little bit. The next one down is the Commercial Collection Team, that's coming out of the Sanitation Fund. The next one after that is from Development, which is an EIT, or an Engineering Training, and that's coming from the Building Fund. The next one after that is Public Works, that's coming from the General Fund, and that is a Streets Department laborer, which we're changing the name of. You'll hear about that also. And then after that is the Public Works, which is half coming from sanitation and half coming from general fund, and because that's a diesel gas mechanic who spends part of their time working on the garbage trucks and the larger vehicles out of the sanitation fund. And then after that is a grant application that we'll be doing here shortly for an additional 6 fire rescue employees to manage north of the bridge. That 6 firefighter there, you do not see that employee increase within this budget as it's a grant application process.
Well, just, we'll see the numbers later.
So as far as housekeeping is concerned, I know last year there was a little confusion on what page are you on, what are you looking at when each department, or when each commissioner was bringing something up out of the budget. So if you look, the When you're looking at your budget sheets, which is in your packet, that top number right there is called the fund, and then the bottom number is the account number. So as we're going through this, if you have a question, if you would just tell us what fund and account number you're looking at so that we can find it. And Jolie or Mr. Baglioli is going to also call out that fund and account number when the department director comes up so that you can turn to that location easily. And this is the list of chosen departments to come up and speak about whatever they have going on within their department, whether it's a new employee or something different happening within their agency, or just because they're a very large department. Other departments can be brought up by commissioner request if you have some item that you want to talk about within a different department's budget that's not listed there. When we're done with these departments, please feel free to ask for a different department to come up.
Can I say something?
Of
Can
course.
we allow them to make their presentation and write down whatever question you have, and then we go back to it so that people don't feel like they're being picked upon or something?
Well, I mean, that's
Or
the
you wanna
point.
do
That's
it-
why I call this the Inquisition.
Okay, you want to do the Inquisition method?
Well, I know like the chief, he has to leave when he's done talking with you guys, so he has something to present.
And we'd have to call a separate meeting to have you guys to discuss the answers.
Yeah.
We can't have you deliberate the answers without being in a public setting.
Yeah.
No, I'm saying just after they make their presentation. Okay, go on. Is it Jolie that's gonna say that he's calling the police department, or do I just?
He's there. So Chief Tuminelli will start, and he's going to talk to you a little bit about, you can turn the lights back on, and he's going to talk to you a little bit about what he has to say, and then you guys are welcome to ask him questions if you would like, or you can pass on asking him questions.
And that's in general fund, and it says 1190 as the department number.
Okay.
And there's a lot more to this budget document, so when we pluck the pages out, page numbering is irrelevant.
It's page 70 on the budget, I believe.
Oh, awesome, thank you.
Page 70. Commissioners, Vice Mayor, Mayor, I appreciate your time. As the police chief for 3 years, I'm very satisfied with this year's budget. However, I do have some topics that I would like to discuss with you and bring to your attention to the forefront. First of all, we've had a change within our CAD and RMS system that started last year, and it's a long process. It's with the Tyler system, and the commission passed a resolution sometime last year, and that process is still going on. The CAD and RMS system has already been paid for. It's not necessarily in this budget, but we are still expanding upon that. It is one of the things that will bring the police department, make it more futuristic, a technology leader within the Treasure Coast. We are partnering with the Martin County Sheriff's Office as well. So with that said, that is still an ongoing project. However, it's not in this budget. It's one of the things that it's one of the things that I'm very proud of, and my project manager, which is Officer Rice, is doing an outstanding job with that. So one of the issues I like to discuss is, and I'm sure it affects everybody's budget within the city.
Did you say, excuse me,
Yes, ma'am.
page 70?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
I believe it's page 70 in
Thank
that
you.
sheet. So one of the things that I would like to discuss, and I'm sure it's going to affect everybody's budget within the city, is fuel. So when I first received the budget, I thought Jolie had made a mistake. Unfortunately.
He always does.
Yes. That is normally the first thing out of my mouth. I think you're wrong. But
Paid one last year.
But as you can see in line item 552 under operating supplies, there's a significant increase in fuel costs. And that is equals to about $72,000 in addition. The
What was that
fuel
line
is
item
basically
number?
doubled.
552, operating
552.
supplies.
552 in line item.
Okay, thank you.
Last year's budget, fuel costs were $1.50. This year, they're $2.89 or 283, my bad, excuse me. So last year's budget was 68,000. This year's budget's $141,000. So with that increase, there was discussion about the sustainability plan within the city in regards to electric vehicles. As you know, we are under the enterprise lease program for vehicles within the city. However, this year it was decided to purchase, I think, do they still come from enterprise, really? Purchase vehicles instead of lease from the 564 line item, which is the capital outlay. We would purchase 5 vehicles. So those vehicles are what they call hybrid electric vehicles interceptors. Knowing that we have a $70,000 increase in gas and fuel, Ford actually has a interesting calculation formula as to what the HEV Ford Interceptor, police interceptor, can save in a year's time. And I only made one copy of this, and you're more than welcome to have it and get some copies of it, or do your own research for it. But what I did come up with is that the purchase of 5 vehicles, there is a fuel savings, of 343 gallons of fuel per year. So they have a pretty neat little formula that you add into the little program that they have. So we're purchasing 5 vehicles. On an 8-hour shift, they show idle time is like 4.9 hours. We at the police department have 12-hour shifts, so I expanded that out to 7.35 hours, which is 33%, give or take. Utilizing the fuel cost per gallon at $2.83, which is in our line item, the city would save in fuel alone with purchase of these vehicles $24,663 in fuel.
Each vehicle or?
That is total with 5. So it's about $5,000 per vehicle.
Okay.
Yes, sir. In addition to that, the pounds of CO2 emissions that would be decreased is 154,000 pounds. Now, I'm not a very big environmental guy, but I think that's pretty significant. With that said, that is one of the cost-saving things that we have attacked regarding the fuel pricing.
Chief?
Yes, sir.
I commend you guys for looking at the sustainability plan as an option to when it comes to patrol cars and dealing with fuel costs.
When it hits the wallet, sometimes it makes sense.
Exactly. Yeah, it's the green premium.
Yes, sir.
Is the pickup in these vehicles sufficient, comparable?
They do not make a electric vehicle pickup. We could drive around.
No, I
he
mean,
means the-
He means
acceleration.
acceleration
You actually
speed.
need it, and you're not just idling, but you're using it to
We are
high-speed
not,
chase.
we are not necessarily in a position to need the high-speed cars such as highways and such. I think without looking further into it, in my opinion is that they would be just as high-performing as the originals. There may be some hiccups with it because I know at some point it turns off. So there could be some issues there, but I don't think that there's going to be any issues of, performance regarding these cars.
I'll take you for a ride in my little Prius after the meeting. You'll show you some. It's got some pickup in it. Sport mode.
The Tesla does 0 to 60 in 2.5.
Well, fully electric vehicles have instant torque, so there's no problem with that. But
Yeah.
Is it a plug-in hybrid? Or is no?
It is not a plug-in. It is, the edges are the hybrid as well, I believe. So we do have some already.
One of the unique features of the patrol car that they're doing is that a lot of the time is spent on idle time. So when you're on crashes and stuff, the car's sitting there running because you have to keep the lights running. And if you turn the car off, your battery's going to die. So these vehicles will actually switch the lights and stuff over to the lithium battery that the vehicle runs off in the hybrid mode, and then shut the engine off when you're on long-term idle time.
Does it run the AC as well from the lithium battery?
I don't know about all that.
Yes, it does.
So
It
those,
does.
I mean, besides, the actual functionality compared to the cars that officers are using on the road now, and then my other wonder would be, how often with your usage are you gonna have to replace the batteries in the car? Because replacing the lithium batteries, if that offsets any of the fuel gain.
These are first-year vehicles, I believe, on the police side, and I do not know the answer to that question.
Well,
It could
that's
be
an
really
interesting question. I wish
It
you had
is.
brought that up when we did the sustainability plan. I mean, because
Yeah.
that was the whole movement that we're going
I'm
towards.
all for it, but these are, I mean, you're comparing your fuel costs to, a use of a police car it's constant, I'd be curious to know how much you're gonna get out of that battery of the life cycle, and how quickly you're gonna have to.
Well, the $5,000 a year per vehicle cost, I mean, let's just say in a traditional hybrid battery, you get about $100,000 on a battery, on a warranty, 100,000 miles, I should
100,000
say.
miles.
So, and the battery, the cost for those batteries has dropped substantially over time. So, I mean, it's definitely more expensive than your standard car battery, but you still see a savings over.
And they're probably, if I'm not mistaken, and don't quote me on this, they may be warranted for the total of 5 years as well. So,
Madam Mayor?
Yes, sir.
I think that, if our goal as a city, which we stated it was when we did the sustainability plan, is to create we're looking at potential cost savings, but even if it breaks even in the end because of a battery later on, I think that it's worth it for us towards our goal of sustainability, if that's what our stated goal is, which I believe we
Well,
decided
we
that.
stated it.
Oh, yeah.
So, and so again, I go back to, I like the thinking, and I'm also confident as batteries come down in price and technology allows them to last longer, we're going to see a bigger and bigger premium for the length of time, so we'll see a bigger savings on these, and hopefully we'll start seeing these vehicles come into the leasing program, so that through, I guess it's Enterprise, I think we do our leasing through. If we can start seeing them coming through the.
We actually can do them through the lease. I switched them this year to the outright purchase because I want to start an alternating plan so that it doesn't increase it's really not it's a finance program basically. But as we have funds available in our reserve program to purchase them, because at the end of the 5th year, we're talking turnover time for the other cars, and the ones that we purchase outright, we can do a turnover also at the same time, but we're not having the yearly cost increase. So the only real department that I'm concerned about is the PD side of it, because they have special markings on their car. We haven't had the test yet to what our trade-in values are going to be on those when we do the trade-in. So I don't want to get too deep into this situation we're in with Enterprise and not be able to get ourselves out if we're
That makes sense.
get our cars into that situation. And one of the things that's driven us away citywide and previously from this electric vehicle market has been the cost of vehicles, because they historically have been higher than normal, and I believe these are the same cost as a regular car.
Yeah, and we don't benefit from the tax credit as a private
Right.
individual.
Right.
Thank you. Chief,
yes.
when do you have to leave us, 5:30 or 6?
Whenever you release me,
Oh, I thought you had something else.
I do.
All right, please continue, sir.
So, with that said, I mean, looking at my budget, there's another thing I'd like to touch on real quick, is that I'm trying to make the police department paperless, everything electronic. The updated programs that are in here, that are in the budget right now, are certainly a benefit to the city and the police department, and I have no other comments about this budget other than I'm very satisfied with it.
Okay, for the public, can you just tell us your proposed number? I know that it's in our presentation.
Total? To include salary?
Yes, sir.
$9.671 million.
Okay.
That is with indirect costs. So if you take out the indirect costs, it's 8.1 million.
Okay, and that is on, the proposed budget is on our website?
Not
Or
yet,
just on the agenda?
just on the agenda so far.
Thank you, I guess that's okay, another day we'll talk about, well, most of the grants and stuff will be through the ARP. They're gonna-
There are other grants, like they have a grant in there from Fine to offset the boat that they have requested in here. So it's a 50% match. So they do have a grant in there. They also get the Justice Grant every year, but that isn't here yet.
$6,000.
Yeah, it's not huge.
And I
Yes.
just wanted to either congratulate our department, I understand that our Martin County Sheriff does not have cameras, is that correct?
Body worn cameras, he does not, no.
No cameras, and we have cameras,
Yes,
and
ma'am.
plus we have grant
We were the
funds.
first on the Treasure Coast, thank you to Mr. Dias, to have cameras
Yes,
many years ago.
yes. All right, thank you, Chief. Any, Mr. Meyer, and then Ms. Bruner first, since you haven't asked any questions.
No, I thought we'd dismiss the chief. I wanted to just say, when do I bring up the Arts Council? I want to talk about that before we leave.
I think we're gonna go with the fire next, but
Okay,
Mr.
yeah.
Meyer, did you have anything?
Yeah, I just wanted to ask about the specifics around the enterprise lease. I know that enterprise does, and I understand now why we're trying to keep an insurance policy, I guess. I know that enterprise does offer hybrid and electric vehicle options. I don't know, do we know yet if there is a commercially available, fully electric Interceptor-style vehicle?
There is not,
There is not, okay.
there is not.
Thank you. Thank you, Chief.
Thanks, Chief.
Thank you.
Are we gonna break everybody's presentation and ask if any public has a question of the chief? I see Ms. McBride. Okay, Ms. McBride. Do we need to? Okay. Sorry.
One moment, Helen. One moment.
If you remember, I spoke about this maybe 6 months ago about hiring new police officers. We're building a lot of apartments, we're gonna have a lot of new people in, and as a citizen, and I'm talking to the citizen, I know in my neighborhood we're having problems because we just don't have enough, in our opinion, because I'm not the chief, I'm just a citizen. It's sad that you can't leave your car parked outside of your house. Now, I've got sensor lights in the front, in the back, on the side, and John put up a camera so you can see that. But we're still, I know last weekend, had serious problems in my neighborhood with break-ins. And, lock your door. Well, I make sure it's locked. My neighbor made sure his Mercedes door was locked, so they took a rock and crashed the window to get in.
They don't do that tomorrow.
I see, you're hiring firemen for north of the bridge and that. But our other problem is, and I know you commissioners have spoke about this, the speeders. It is ridiculous. And even the people in Martin County are now writing letters about, we just don't have enough, in our opinion, law enforcement. Now, you can say, oh, we'll hire 3 police officers. We can't just go out and hire 3 police officers and expect them to know everything. It takes training, it takes a couple of years for them to get in with the city in that. And I also know from my own personal family, our police officers are retiring now in their 50s. I have 6 members of my family in law enforcement, 5 of them in their early 50s, but 4 of them have retired, the other one's retiring in January. You just can't let our police force get down and expect a whole new bunch of young officers to come in. You have to have, they learn through experience. So I noticed, I didn't see any police officers, but I'd rather have the 5 point, maybe 0.1 or that. I'd rather pay more taxes for my safety, and for my fellow neighbor's safety, than worry about a dollar. Thank you.
Thank you, and I don't know if Chief is gonna comment, but I'd probably say that our police department, to my estimation, is trying to work smart as well as work hard. And I think that they have, strategies that are hoping to deal with that. I remember when, I forgot his name now, tall guy, he used to just stand in front of the Baptist church and give out tickets during school time. But we'll see. Thank you. Mr. Breckville?
Yes, I just had one comment relative to the police budget, and it also goes back to the original slide that Dave presented relative to the ARP plan. And we have $2 million allocated in there for testing, COVID testing, and all those kind of things for a facility north of the bridge. And frankly, I think within our community, maybe not necessarily in the city of Stuart, but within our community, we have those resources available, and probably still will. But,
Mary?
but
Mike is more.
Oh, now my mic's back on.
I can talk louder. Okay, I broke it. Anyway, what I was getting at is that I would personally, as a resident, like to see that money reallocated to mental health benefits and mental health costs relative to the police and fire, and to increase that budget using some of that money to make that available for our police department and our fire department to continue to get mental health resources on a regular basis. And so if we could look to do that or allocate some of the budget, put something in the budget, or at least make a reference to the budget, so that I think for this last year, it's been tough. It's been tough on the police, it's been tough on the fire, and any of our public health people. And I think it would be good if we could use some of that money that's coming in to provide some mental health benefits to our police and fire.
Thank you. I know that there's nobody scrolling the budget, but I think some of that is discussed. Mr. Meyer, and we're going to be mindful of people's time and comments. Mr. Meyer?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just wanted to clarify, the $2 million that was just mentioned in a comment for north of the bridge, that's not for testing, it was for for a new facility, a new fire facility, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
So I know all of you are aware, but for the benefit of the public, the county has given us notice that they are no longer going to engage with our interlocal agreement, and we are currently working on a new interlocal agreement. But as a result, we will now need to provide fire services north of the bridge, where previously the county has provided those services. So everything that you've heard, whether it's in the ARPA plan or outside of the ARPA plan within the budget, as far as the grant and the 6 firefighters, are related to providing city services of fire rescue north of the bridge. It is my personal feeling, you all know I have a strong passion for public safety in general. And while we have been able to cover that location with law enforcement, we have not been able to cover that location with fire rescue. And I am a proud Stuart person, and I believe that we should service our jurisdiction and do it to the max.
Amen. And finally, Madam Mayor, briefly, Chief, if I can just ask, do you feel as Chief that you have the resources that you need, the number of officers you need to keep our community safe?
Absolutely, 100%, yes.
Okay.
And to Ms. McBride, I do apologize. We did have 5 burglaries or rasher burglaries that happened in her neighborhood, so we're working on that criminal. So.
Thanks.
Thank you, David, for saying that. It's so important for the community to hear this, because all of us want to be safe, and we want the best that our money can buy. And I think y'all do a darn good job, and we're not, raising these taxes. And we have to get that, build that building, have the firefighters.
This is the only opportunity I've seen for us to accomplish this and not have a tax increase.
Yeah.
Okay, so because we have developments that are ongoing and developments that may be coming, I've had people ask me, well, has there been a full feasibility study by the police department as to what their absolute number would be based on our current building and population, or maybe build out in 2 years or so.
So basically, the construction of these projects has not come full circle yet. So we probably like 1, 2, 3 years out would be a better time to look at that. The answer still could be no. So depending on, staffing.
So there, can I respond real quick? So there's an old wives' tale that came out from a guy who gave a speech a long time ago from the FBI about 1 per 1,000, so 1 officer per 1,000. So if that were the case, we'd only have 16 officers. So it's definitely unreliable. Police Chief Morley at the time got a hold of a proprietary spreadsheet that he unleashed me on that came out of Texas that evaluates the miles of roads you have, the calls for service you use, the number of officers you use. I mean, it's a whole gamut of information that you put into there. And I've used that year over year to determine whether or not we're at the break point for an increase in officers. That in combination with the evaluation of call load, and I believe Chief Tuminelli just did the evaluation of call load, is what would determine the next step for increases. Additional population doesn't necessarily equate to additional officers. I mean, the way it is now, I mean, a lot of these developments, as we know, are not coming in at low income. It's actually quite higher income, and even the lower income apartments that we have don't necessarily draw a lot of police calls. So population doesn't necessarily equate to calls.
And I must say that question has also been posed with regard to the fire department. And I know when we had the study, when we were doing the fire down on the Indian Street or Monterey Road, when a few years ago we were talking about, there was a fire study, and I think Hazen or somebody, and it was, people were asking all kinds of
It
questions.
was for
So-
the independent fire district.
Yeah, the independent fire district, that's right. So anyway, I'm sure that we'll hear from our fire department. Mr. Police Chief Tuminelli, thank you so much. Unless Mr. Vice Mayor has something else?
Yes, sir.
Just to drive the point home though, if you felt that you needed another officer, you would have put it in this budget. Is that correct?
100%, absolutely.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. Thank you. Thank you. Is it Jolie or is it David, or is it just me calling on our Mr. Felicione?
Next up will be Chief Felicio for Fire Rescue.
Madam
Thank
Mayor,
you.
can I ask a general question?
Yes,
of,
sir.
Of
Mr.
Mr. Dias?
Bowser, please come forward. Thank you.
Just because we did have a question, one of mine overall generally was, if you could just give us a quick overview of the division total, the consolidated totals, and the indirect cost totals, because I know we roll them up at the end of each account number.
You mean for each
Of each
department?
fund, yeah. Can you just explain to us in the public the difference between the division fund, the consolidated, and the indirect costs? Because they're listed out separately.
Thank you. Good question. Thank you, Mr. Meyer.
What's presented in the budget over the years, the city, at the direction of the commission and various managers, had asked to say, how much does the police department cost us? Well, let's put all the paint, carpet cleaning, and air conditioner filters that go into the police department into their budget. Then suddenly building maintenance had a budget of about $5,000, right? So then we're like, well, wait a minute, how much does building maintenance cost us across the city? Let's take it all out of all the other departments and put it into building maintenance. So then we had to do a bunch of charge-outs and chargebacks. So a few years ago, we came up with the idea of what we do is those direct costs that you said, I'm addressing those, is in each department, they put a code that identifies that it's a vehicle maintenance expense or a building maintenance expense. So at the bottom of the building maintenance department, the 1215 division there, you'll see a listing of requests made by the other departments in their budgets. So the money's still in that department's budget, so they reflect their true cost. But building maintenance, we're able to say, here's how much building maintenance is costing the city of Stuart. Here's how much vehicle maintenance is costing the city of Stuart. That's that direct charge. So the line for the department then followed by those requests of other departments. And that's also so that the people in charge of those departments know what they need to get in line for the next year. Whether they need to get bids or they need more employees to accomplish those requests, things like that. The indirect cost allocation is there based on an outside study where they looked, and if you'll notice, departments such as yourself, the city commission, the city attorney, the city manager, they took the cost of those departments, they said, all right, the city attorney spends 20% of his time on building and zoning codes. He spends 5% of his time doing this, he spends 2% of his time on law enforcement stuff or whatever. And those percentages are multiplied out across the entire budget, and they come back and say, okay, if the fire department was independent, they'd have to hire a budget person, they'd have to hire ADP to do their payroll, they'd have to hire an attorney on the outside, they'd have to hire, okay. So those indirect costs try to indicate what the overhead charge is for this department. So those indirect costs are the allocation of all of us around them that they would need. If they were a fire district, they'd have a fire district commission, 5 or 7 members sitting there also
Right.
with their own salaries. They'd have their own budget officer, all that kind of stuff, right? So those indirects is that. Now, between the fund, internally, like between fire department and finance, I don't charge him anything. I give him a break. I don't actually cut a check to him. It says how much of my time goes towards the fire department's time. But between the funds actually, water, sewer, sanitation, stormwater, and general fund all pay each other for what they owe each other in indirect costs. Water, sewer host all the customer service operation of the city. They process the payments, take the bills. So there's a charge back from us for them taking our payments, things like that. So yes, you'll have what the department asked for in their hard cost. If it's a department that does services for others, like building maintenance or vehicle maintenance, you'll see those direct charges. And then all the departments that benefit from the service, departments such as ourselves, have their indirect cost added into that. So there's the hard cost, and then there's the soft cost that's only a paper expense. Okay? Does that answer it?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, Commissioners, Vince Felicione, Fire Chief, Operations Chief Troy Bowser. I'm probably going to just start it out with, to just carry on with a lot of what the manager has already spoke of and some other people spoke of, is the ARPA situation with the fire department. So really, with the allocated funds for that building up there, that building is not only just going to serve as a much needed fire station for not just the northern part of the city, but that is a key operational point for backing up the central part of the city. So, you know, we'll probably get into our call load and how busy we are versus years past, and it's not getting lower, everything's getting busier. So, not to mention, you know, that building is also going to house an ambulance and a fire engine that both have paramedics on them, and they will be responding to and treating COVID patients. And not only that, we're going to be designing that building to have a designated area, you know, for current vaccines, vaccination point for the public, and for any future boosters or further vaccines. As we know, we're back to these, and it's changing all the time, so we don't know where we're going to be. But I can tell you that, you know, that is serving the citizens of the city directly related to COVID, because we have treated and transported over 1,000 patients with COVID. So, I mean, it absolutely is a direct, you know, for that. So I just wanted to, you know, put that out there. As far as the ambulance that's also targeted in there, that ambulance, like I just mentioned, has treated hundreds, if not over 1,000 patients, and it's 16 years old. So the manager over the past few years has been, you know, beyond outstanding in his support of the fire department and trying to fix some of the problems we had about being stagnant with whether that was our fleet or personnel or whatever the case was. So, you know, and we've done that. You know, we have a new ambulance being built from, you know, the last budget that was delayed because of COVID, of course. We have the new fire engine that was delivered finally and put in service, that's running now. But this, you know, this ambulance, of course, is going to be replacing a 16-year-old ambulance and treating COVID patients every day.
Chief,
So,
what were some of the years of your engines?
yeah, so, and really, and I think even last year when we did this, we talked about some of our fleet, if not all of our fleet, and how behind we were, and we were trying to catch up, and all of that I was saying with the manager. So, you know, we were, up until we got the new fire engine in service a few months ago, right, that took a year and something to build, that fire engine was 25 years old. The fire engine that we're gonna be putting up in that station is the reserve engine that was replaced by this one. It's 25 years old. I said it last time, and I know a lot of the commissioners are very appreciative and proud of our ISO rating, as we are in the fire department, in the community. And I said it, and I'll say it again, there isn't another Class 1 department in South Florida that runs 25-year-old fire engines. I can tell you that for a fact. So we make it happen. We understand the limitations of the funding. We've always made it happen. That's what we do. So, but again, you have to have a plan. So we have a plan. We're slowly, you know, chipping away at that. To the manager's point, I'm sorry, is a couple of our fire engines are 25 years old. Our ladder truck is 15 going on 16 years old. Our ambulances are 16, 15, and 14. So, and our call load has gone up. In the last 10 years, the number is ridiculous. You don't even want to know that. So last year we ran over 7,000 calls. 10 years ago we ran 3,000 calls. So you can do that math. And this year we're on pace for.
Yeah, we're already, as of July, we're already 317 calls more than we were last year at the same time, as of July 19th. So we're on pace. We can generally trend 5 to 6 to 7% increases every year. And we haven't gone backwards in a decade. So.
Thank you. Does anybody have any questions on the particular budget page? What budget page is that again,
sorry.
Jolie?
It's immediately following the police, 1201, is the
Okay.
department.
Can I, while anybody's looking for that, or if they have any questions for Chief, I'd just like to say that, you know, we didn't take a moment of silence at the beginning of the meeting per se, but I just want to say that this is serious. We're in perilous times. These guys not only get a paycheck, they have to get up and face all kinds of stuff. It's not about the paycheck when you're a fire person or a police person, and all the department heads and their staff, not to downplay anybody, but there is so much integral in doing this service. And it is a privilege to know that we can sit here and know that we have enough money to be able to help meet the needs of our community, and to have people who are planning and thinking ahead, and we have staff who are willing to lay their lives on the line, especially during this COVID. And I appreciate all of your members who are here. And Mr. Bowser, I saw you in action the day we had the roof situation, and Chief also. We know that you go through a lot emotionally, and I think it was Mr. Breckrill that talked about mental health issues. I just say thank you. Thank you to everyone. Thank you for what you do. It's not about a paycheck. We can't pay you enough. The things that you have to think about, the clothing that you wear, just the way you drive, it's a whole different animal. And we appreciate what you do. Thank you.
Thank you, I appreciate
Mayor?
that.
Thank you, Mayor.
Ms. Bruner?
Oh, okay.
I wanted to, going up north of the bridge on US 1 up to Jensen Beach Boulevard, some of that is ours and some of it's not.
Correct.
And we're building, there's a 4-story development up there. I think it's almost built, it might be. And then going up there, we went to a roof ceremony, and there's like 300 and something, that's 3 stories.
Yeah.
And then there's been a couple assisted living being built. So most of it, all of that is ours, I believe. So I know
Correct, it
you're
is.
needed. What part do you in Martin County help each other like you've done before?
So we had an ILA, an interlocal agreement in place for the past 3-ish years, and we're currently under negotiations now with them. They opted to, like Mr. Manager said, to change a lot of the interlocal agreement, but we're currently still under negotiation with them. So in short, the way it's going to be operating now is, you know, the city wants to be as self-sufficient as possible. I believe a lot of you feel that way as well. And so we're going to do everything we can to run and capture and handle all of the fire rescue calls within the entire city limits like the police department does. And they're going to handle, you know, their calls in their jurisdiction. And of course, there's always in the agreements that when the other side needs help, we help each other. So that's always in place. So again, nothing's finalized yet, of course, but we would still have that means in place to help each other out.
Thank you.
The new
Commissioner
agreement,
McDonald?
the new
Oh, sorry.
agreement will be coming to you within the next couple of months. There's a 90-day out, and so the current agreement actually expires October. And so we're going to try to have the new agreement to you before the actual expiration. But the new agreement is going to be fee-based, where the current agreement is not.
Did the Martin County Commissioners have a meeting, vote, and cancel it, and notify us of the cancellation?
The county administrator sent us a cancellation. I'm not sure if the commissioners voted or not, but
I'm just wondering what the authority came
Thank you.
I don't
Commissioner
believe
McDonald?
Hey, Chief,
Hey.
first of all, I just think that, I'm excited about the third station. I think that, I felt that we were heading for that direction. And a couple quick questions. What about dispatch? I know there's been some issue about whether the county was going to continue doing dispatch or if we were going to do our own dispatch.
Right, so originally in the early part of these talks that we're currently in now with the county that we're under negotiation, originally there was some question about dispatch that came up throughout this process. It has worked itself out.
Okay.
So as of now, in this immediate future, there won't be a change with dispatch. If that was to change in the future, would be up to, Mr. Manager's decision
Okay.
on that.
So on the dispatch, with the county doing the dispatch, one of the things that, since we'll be covering the whole city ourselves, will we be catching all of the ambulance runs within the city limits, providing that we have crews for them? Or will the county be cherry picking stuff with the dispatch, sending their ambulances to assisted living,
Sure.
especially in the south side of the county, catching those ambulance runs, which then, of course, we get reimbursed for? And could we potentially see an increase in ambulance fees because of us taking over the whole city?
In our opinion, absolutely yes.
Okay.
And when I'm speaking of myself and my assistant here, but.
So that'll offset certainly our budget.
Because really, for the, edification of you guys and to be transparent like you guys always are and do, and look, the old interlocal agreement had the ability for that to occur, what you said.
Right.
And that was the agreement that was in place. Now, there was no fee based, but whoever transported the person
Got paid.
So whereas now, if we have units available in the city, then we're going to be capturing all of those.
Okay.
And again, we move units around to try to reduce response times and all of that stuff, just like they do.
Right.
So, but
We'll
absolutely,
backfill.
as long as we have units available, we would be doing it.
Okay, then I think probably the last thing is, or two things. One is, on numerous occasions, because of the ILA, I've seen our fire trucks out Cobblestone, I-95, Eve Tropical Farms. Will we see a reduction of those type of runs?
I would say absolutely, yes.
Good. And then finally, is there any concern of opening the station north of the bridge that it would potentially cause a reduction in our ISO rating?
Absolutely not. If
anything, it'll
would be-
enhance it?
It would, right, correct.
Okay, good.
It would maintain where we are, which is of course a 1.
Because it can't get better, right?
I was looking for ISO 0. I was like, what's up?
I think we should get like a ISO with a gold star or something.
Right.
Thank you, Chief.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Matheson?
I was just twirling my pen, but Chief Feliciano,
Well, then
I'm very excited for the station north of the bridge. It's an excellent opportunity to make sure that we service the city of Stuart. The entire point of us being a city is to provide police service, fire service, and utilities to our residents. And that missing hole north of the bridge where we've been relying on the county has always been an issue. So I commend you and your team for having a plan to fill that hole and taking advantage, you know, of the American Rescue Package that one will provide that location, and on top of it, provide a way to ease the burden of COVID on us all. They're providing a location for vaccines, distribution, storage, and, you know, public health and safety up there as well. So,
Is there anything else, Chief, or Mr. Bowser? Thank you, Mr. Matheson.
The only thing I would like to say, of course, is, and I never would speak for a small group of the fire union that's back here, is on behalf of just us, you know, we've been, I only speak for me and my assistant, I'm sorry when I do that, is we've been here a long time. You know, I was born and raised in the city. We've spent our whole careers here, and to have the support from you guys that we may or may not have seen in our careers and all of the positive things that we're doing, we just wanted to say thank you on behalf of us.
Thank you. Thank all of you guys.
Thank you, guys. Thank you.
All right.
I'd clap, but
It is mandatory to clap.
I can just bang the cast.
Right.
I have a quick question, Madam Mayor.
Yes, sir.
So, city manager presented early on that there were seven potential positions based on six, based on a grant/general fund, but that we're relying on the grant for those. In the case that the grant doesn't happen, let's hope it does.
Correct.
Are we looking at not opening any of those positions or half, or, because it's a cost share, I imagine, right?
I have an emergency fallback situation for that.
Okay.
You got a
Great.
plan B?
I have a plan B and a C.
So we're
Oh,
counting on those
you're the
six,
man.
regardless
So
of,
I rely on my boss, and my boss said he has a plan, and that's all
but you get to talk to us
that's all I
today.
say. I say.
We want to make
That's how
sure.
the military works. It's
plan
not
B
how
is to
the
get the
city-
grant, and plan C is to go for the grant, right?
Yeah, right. So, and speaking of the grant, that I know you guys know that you just, passed the first part just to apply for it.
Right.
That's gonna be, they're gonna put the notice of funding out for that around October, November of this year. And like I told, the manager the other day, which we got the news on that I didn't even realize is, now FEMA does these grants every year, of course. And because of COVID last year, they waived the cost sharing for all 3 years. Now, they said, we all know how that works. That would be amazing if we got approved and they did that. But it's worth noting that is, anything's possible, especially with the government still putting out plans and, these packages, and, we all know where we're at. So I just wanted to at least say that. But keep our fingers crossed just that we get it, yes.
Okay, and then finally for the ambulance fees, it's one of those things, right? I don't want us to collect the fee because, that means that somebody is in need of critical care, but obviously it helps to defray the costs of the service. So I know that in current budget year right now, 2021, we have 1.25 million budgeted. The year before audited 2020, we only came in at about 890K. Is that mostly due to COVID, or,
I believe it was because, we have a third-party company that does our billing
okay,
for us, and,
So
sir,
part of that, I believe, is also that Rescue 3 went full-time.
Yes.
So we've historically ran 2 rescues, and over the last few years, we've added fire personnel to get Rescue 3 online full-time. And so they recently, within this cycle, we've got completely checked off to where Rescue 3 is running now. So that's an increase in the revenue source there.
maybe Mr. Baglioli,
I'm only 200,000 from this year's budget of $1,250,000, so we're on track.
we're on track, great.
I have
And,
3 months left to collect that, so we should actually come in slightly above where we're at.
okay, super, that's kind of what, making sure that we were planning appropriately, and hopefully, again, I hope we don't have more calls, but if we do have more calls, I hope we,
and to Commissioner McDonald's point, we have numerous situations under the previous interlocal
where we weren't
we
collecting.
weren't capturing calls just for no other reason. That was the agreement.
Right.
That's what it was. But with the planned agreement, there should be no doubt we're gonna be capturing more.
And we
Commissioner
anticipate
Bruno?
that with it 55 and over, new north of the bridge, the Harbor Chase coming online.
Well, there's currently, what, 200, 220 calls north of the bridge that the county works for us average yearly now.
And Grand Oaks right
Everything.
there.
Yeah.
Grand Oaks on Green
But
River.
not in
and-
the city,
Thank you.
Well,
but we might get a call there.
we might get a call there if we have a facility north of the bridge.
Right.
Thank you,
Yeah.
Commissioner Bruner.
I was just sitting here curious, how many of these firefighters can you hire from Stuart, Martin
How many you want us to hire?
County? All of them?
Yes.
All 6, is that how many you said?
Yes.
Within the city limits, you're saying?
No, the county, local men.
So you're saying out of for the grant, how many are we hiring? I'm sorry?
If
No.
that's it, is it the grant?
Yeah, so
When you do
it's
meetings,
6.
yeah.
6
Yes,
is
sir.
what we're looking to hire.
Yes, sir.
Oh, well, we hope, yeah, I mean,
I do too.
we do have a, you know, and I know, not to put it on HR, but, you know, we have our positions, you know, our recruitment is always open. So we used to close it and open it, but we just leave it ongoing. So we can always capture people throughout the year and throughout, anytime we have an opening in a position. And, I mean, that's always filling up and always adding new people. And, you know, we do our due diligence and do our interviews and pick the best candidates.
Do you have a list of men? A list, do you have a list of men
Yes,
that are waiting, would like to work for you?
and women.
And women.
Yes.
And women,
And women, yes,
that would like to work for you?
absolutely. Oh, yeah,
Thank you.
and it's significant,
Thank you.
yes.
Mr. Mortel just offered.
I
to
said
come
I'd
in
work for you.
Thank you. Thank you, Chief. Mr. Bowser, anything else?
Nope, good, thank you.
Okay, anybody has any questions for Chief or Mr. Bowser? Okay, does the commission want to put Public Works to the very end?
No?
No.
No.
Come on, Milton's like, yes, put me at the end. Mr. Leggett?
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you. Nice shirt.
We're gonna get him in a tie before it's over.
Public Works would start on the 45th page.
Can we put just right off the bat, put $20 in the budget to get Milton a tie?
Wow.
Money.
He looked good in a tie.
Already. Business casual.
They love you, don't worry
What
about it.
account number?
It's the 1170.
1170.
The first one listed for vehicle maintenance, 45th page of the PDF.
Oh, let me see this.
So Mr. Leggett has some new position requests in there he's going to talk to you about and then answer any other questions that you may have.
Madam Mayor, Commissioners,
Yes, sir.
Milton Leggett, Public Works Director.
Yes, sir.
Get started. We're requesting one apprentice position in the transportation team. This position is for the increase in maintenance project that we have undertaken. We're also requesting a diesel mechanic position in the vehicle maintenance team. And that position will be partly funded with vehicle maintenance and sanitation team, since sanitation team has the most large-sized vehicles. I want to update you on some of the projects that the Public Works team are working on right now. We have the Stormwater Master Plan coming before you September 13th with CapTech Engineering. After that presentation, we'll be looking at prioritizing stormwater projects at that point. Possible funding source, I have several meetings with the city manager in reference to a possible funding, and we've talked about using the ARP funds once they are available.
And that would be in our second tranche, the next year's funding.
Ongoing projects and upcoming was the East Ocean Boulevard tree replacement project, which is on the way. We anticipated a completion date of November 9th, but we should be completed way before then. Another project that's coming before us is the Osceola tree replacement project also. And that will be done October I'm sorry,
August?
August, August 31st to September 8th. It's like a two-phase project. We'll be replacing, installing fern trees and coconut trees at that point.
With a canopy.
Oh, yes, for the nice canopy. As far as project goes, that's what I have on the table. Any questions about my budget?
When are we gonna finish up Shepherd's Park?
That's under,
Okay,
The-
Shepherd, oh, I'm good.
Will it, okay, you'll do that?
I'll take care, I can
Tim?
do it.
Okay,
I can do it too. We have a final walkthrough tomorrow. If everything works out, we'll be opening it up hopefully this weekend. But we'll be releasing something.
Have the oak trees been planted yet?
The oak trees be installed the end of August.
End of August. Would
Yes.
you let me know? I'd like to be there and see that when you,
Yes, Jim would,
because there's some quite extensive trees.
yes, not a problem.
Thank you.
So that was one of my locations to clean up, me and Milton and Mary for the river cleanup area. And I gotta tell you, I haven't been there in a while, and it is
gorgeous.
beautiful, yeah.
Unbelievable.
From the Orca project along the water line, it is really nice.
Park looks great.
Yeah.
And I really do, I know there was a little bit of pain from the public when we first started the construction, as there often is, but I think now, once it's completed, I do truly believe that the public is really gonna enjoy the park, and it's actually gonna, with the ramp and the trailer being fixed up, it's gonna be much easier. When I went through a ill-conceived plan of owning a boat, that was where I like to put it in. 2 happiest days: the day you buy it and the day it sinks.
Sinks.
Sells.
Well, mine was sinks, but.
Oh, boy.
Long story, but needless to say, that was a very difficult ramp to use, and so I think it's wonderful. I think, if, I'm not planning on getting a boat, but I hopefully I'll find somebody with a boat that'll take me over and we can put it and see how it works out.
okay, just a little bit.
Yes, ma'am.
When I go to that Shepherd's Park, usually the parking lot has a lot of water there. When they finish with all the plantings and everything, will that be able to not have so much water in the
Yes.
parking lot?
Yes.
Okay, all right. Mr. Vice Mayor?
Mr. Leggett and Mr. Volker, I commend you for the work being done on Shepherd's Park. I was there yesterday with my daughters. I'm thrilled. There were 15 or 20 kids playing on the playground, and I'm very happy throughout the whole process. The playground has been open, the park has been accessible to public. Just what has been closed is what was needed to be closed. I can't wait to see when the oak trees go in. In your budget, the transfer from the CRA is about $1,500 for mangrove trimming. I've heard from a few residents, and I don't know how much or what that is specifically allocated for, but some kayakers and canoeists would like to be able to access a little further up Fraser Creek, or some would like to be able to view from our bridge here on Colorado a little bit to actually see the creek. So if maybe we could keep that in mind over the next fiscal year.
We can look into that.
And in prior trash cleanups, I've gone up there with my skiff and gotten so far. I don't want to remove all the mangroves, but just think about functionality, accessibility with canoers and mostly kayakers. I'm also curious about what is a gum buster machine? As a line item in your, and does the
What is it
city,
called?
a gum buster machine for the downtown sidewalks?
Oh, yeah, to kill.
They're scraping gum on sidewalks every day.
I know, so this machine,
This
do we
machine-
have one now, and are we replacing one, or is this a brand new?
This is a updated machine that we had one years ago, and it served us light. This machine here is kind of, you go downtown, it's gum everywhere.
Yeah.
So this thing is like a pressure cleaner with a hot wand on it, and it gets the gum off, and it's just an ongoing maintenance project.
So it's like hot water to loosen up the gum.
And a chemical that goes with it also.
Okay.
Do we have a sign, pretty please don't throw your gum on the sidewalk?
Yeah, I mean, we have officers that could be gum buster machines too,
Good
right?
luck with that one, yes.
Okay, I was curious to see that on the, in the budget, but he catch the gum buster, if it will
Thank you.
help your team be more efficient.
It will.
Thank you.
Excellent.
Mr. Meyer?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Mr. Leggett, just to touch again on the new position request in the vehicle maintenance department, the diesel gas mechanic. So this is somebody, this is to help with our larger commercial, our larger, utility service vehicles?
Yes, sir.
Okay, across all departments or?
Yes, even
Okay.
including fire.
And the existing, so we have one mechanic now, this would be somebody to help?
We currently have two mechanics.
Two mechanics.
And one team leader.
Okay.
A service guy. So this will be a third mechanic.
Okay.
Thank you. Mr. Leggett, what is the new Urban Dictionary or Webster Dictionary for this laborer name? You said this.
Apprentice.
I think Tim's going to talk about that because he's the one who invented it, so we got to give Tim the credit on this invention.
Okay, sorry, thank you. Sorry.
And
I'll ride Tim's coattail on that apprentice.
would now be a good time to ask questions about, this would be on the CIP, but about the new Public Works complex? Or should maybe we touch that later?
So I can respond to that. So the Public Works Complex is in delay. I believe I spoke with each of you about what the cost estimate came in at, which was much higher than what we thought or had in our rate study. So this coming fiscal year, we'll be doing a new rate study. And in that rate study, we'll be questioning what the rate would be if we actually wanted to move forward with that move in new Public Works facility, so that you have the opportunity to see what the rate study is without it and what the rate study would be with it, and you guys can make the determination on whether or not it's worth the cost to the citizens on the rate study for us to move forward with that project.
Okay.
And then that decision will be made.
I just want to make sure, so we're not potentially trying to hire new employees, assuming we're going to be moving into that new complex tomorrow, right?
No.
Thank you, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Anything else, sir? Thank you.
Milton,
Mr.
by the way,
Walker?
Milton, just thank you very much. You're doing a great job running your department.
There's no hurricanes yet, you can't do that right now.
You should have seen the water.
Jinxed it.
You
You
should have
just say
seen
that
the
out
water
loud.
running off Kindred. And he's got the video and he's right on it. So he's already got it fixed and he hasn't even left.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Volker? Milton has stolen your thunder, but that's okay.
I know, I have to follow Milton, man. It's a tough act.
How many times can we say Milton's name tonight?
I know, yeah. What's the count at?
Is there any way we could get a vote, and you guys could vote on the city employee you like most, so we can just say,
You guys,
Just get
I don't know
Milton
if you guys
awarded
know
and get
this,
it over with.
but staff does a point system, and
Yeah,
then,
and that's why we say Milton's name. a lot.
yes, anyone who gets an attaboy from the commission gets a point.
Oh, then,
Oh, wait a minute. Jim
I like your
Borowski,
tie.
I'm gonna give him an attaboy because he needs a point.
I think we should be a little more judicious with those, y'all.
we'll do it, Darren in IT then.
Create a premium around them, you know what I'm saying?
Sell 'em.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, Commissioners. Tim Volker, Utilities Engineering Director. I guess I'll start with personnel first. After fire, Utilities and Engineering was the next largest department request for employees. As Mr. Dias briefly touched on, the 4 employees are replacing contractors and temporary laborers right now. So 3 are within our low-pressure sewer system grinder installs. We have the Johnson Davis is the contractor that installs grinders. So you hire them a 3-man crew, and then in addition to the 3-man crew, there's a temporary labor source that we utilize to bring on 2 additional people. So we outsource 5 positions there, and then the city currently has 2 people in-house to help with those installs. So there's 7 people working on grinder installs. What we're looking at doing is reducing the 5 positions outside down to 3. So it'd be a utility maintenance mechanic, a utility service worker, and then historically, we've always called it a laborer. Now, laborer, I don't like the term. Apprentice is a lot more. So, you know, if you're a person looking for a job and you have two job descriptions exactly the same, one's called a laborer, one's called an apprentice, probably 99% of the people are gonna go after the apprentice because that's showing job growth. The employer is willing to promote that person, teach that person. You know, we're having difficulty finding people.
Yeah.
So we think the name change will help, and then obviously, once we get someone in that position, to groom that person to move through the system. You know, we wanna hire from within and use that institutional knowledge and you know, have them work through the system, become team leaders, managers, and then hire from the bottom. You know, the police and fire do that. It's like a assembly line with those departments. So, you know, Milton and I have discussed that, and we're looking to do that more in public works and utilities and engineering. The utilities public sector is gonna be losing a huge amount of workforce. The baby boomers are retiring. You know, just in our plants, we probably have 3 people potentially retiring in the next 2 to 3 years. So, I mean, we're gonna get hit hard, so we're starting to implement people, younger, you know, people to bring in. We just had our plant operators, both at the water reclamation facility and water treatment plant, go to a school and for career day talk about it, because a lot of students don't know about utilities. It's a great career, and you can go so many different ways. Plants, you can become a mechanic, you can put in pipe, fix water, sewer, all that stuff. So,
You're getting
you know,
as
that's
excited
kind of,
as Dave Peters did about
yeah,
utilities.
yeah. So, you know, back to the grinder system install, so that the 5 outsourcing is going down to 3, and, you know, we're spending $336,000 to install about 150 grinders a year. So we're looking to minimize that by hiring 3 people.
Is the number of grinders, is the pace slowing as far as the installs, or is it staying pretty steady?
So this year was our last sign up and save, so we expect it to slow down because you don't have that big group of people signing up to save. We still expect, right now we have a backlog about 30 grinders. Last couple years have been averaging about 150. So next year we budgeted for 150, and that's, you know, kind of what we're gonna shoot for. But in the next, you know, as the years go on, we expect that to kind of decrease each year.
You can see that in the CIP.
Do you have many people that did, for example, what I did, right a year and a half or so before the sewer system was approved, I had replaced my own septic system. But I did the sign up and save, and I've been paying for it, just haven't installed it yet.
Yeah,
I've been kind of offsetting the cost of not actually hooking up.
Yeah,
So I'm getting ready to hook up probably pretty soon. So are you seeing people that have done stuff like that are starting to hook up?
Absolutely, and then obviously if someone calls, we encourage them to sign up, you know, and let them know, hey, you don't have to have it installed. It's once it fails, so you can still get some useful life.
I just
out
wanted to
of
pay
your
off my
septic.
septic system before I started, before I hooked up, so.
So I just want to say a couple of real quick things that Tim, it's not just a name change from labor to apprentice. When he came to me with this, I was very impressed with the thought process of advancing someone. So when someone comes in at a lower wage level who has the opportunity to advance themselves and develop that into a real working wage rather than the low end of the range is a phenomenal opportunity, where a lot of times in the past we would always just go to the outside for the next levels up. And then the other thing is we used to do the grinders in-house, then we outsourced them. I've heard some horror stories about the outsourcing, and I think it's probably a good idea to bring it in-house. We used to get tons of compliments on our grinder install team, and that went by the wayside when we went to the outsourcing.
I know that one of the recent installs, I don't know if it was outsourced or insourced, was across the street from my house, and they had to dig up my yard to hook up, and all I got is one big dead piece of grass, so.
And with the, you know, bringing it back in-house, it'll improve the efficiency of the installs, because right now the contractors can't drive our vehicles. We have to bring all the equipment out to the site. It's just an hourly rate we pay for their people and a pickup truck. So we're hauling all the equipment. If the guys need like a tool, it's our guys running back to the shop, grabbing that tool, coming back out, and then they go, oh, by the way, we also need this. So we're back, you know, it's.
Good going.
Yeah.
Sounds
so-
much more efficient.
Yeah, much more efficient, and I think, that, you know, just like sanitation, where we've kept that in-house versus, is, you know, and I tease our waste management friends that we get a lot of compliments on our sanitation workers where they do not, so. It's the same thing with the sewer guys, the sewer install team, the grinder system. We've gotten a lot of compliments when we were doing it
Hey,
in-house.
Waste Management's finally getting blue cards.
I know. I see Mr. Saban at the chamber breakfast, and he's been announcing that, and and remind everybody at the chamber meetings that City of Stewart's had them for probably 15 years.
Commissioner Bruner?
Well, I just want to say, it sounds like what all you just said, that you guys are doing all the work, and they're not doing it.
Yeah. And then with the, you know, we anticipate the grinders to decrease every year. So, you know, we're hiring the 3 people, you know, when it does decrease, those people then can pick up on preventative maintenance on the grinders. Obviously, as more grinders get installed, more can go wrong, so we get a lot more calls. So they'll be able to help with the on-calls that happen for emergencies and stuff like that.
And they can move into those retirement positions as well.
Exactly.
Mr. Volker, when did you say that the sign up and save is gonna sunset this?
I think the last zone was probably July of this year. It may have even passed.
And that is zones?
Yeah, it was, so when we went into a neighborhood, installed the infrastructure, once the infrastructure got clearance from DEP, we would mail out a letter to the neighborhood, and then from the date of that letter, it was a year they had to sign up and save, so.
So it's not citywide that might still even be able to take advantage of that. I've done the same as Mr. McDonald with a rental house where it's, there's actually just a vacant lot, but I've signed up and I'm paying for it to hook up. But if we can market that to the last remaining few that haven't signed up yet, in a way, to try and, you know, get as many people committed, even if they aren't gonna hook up right away. But for them to commit and start paying the city, you know, to commit to the switch as well.
Mr. Can I
And
ask
thank
you-
you for the apprentice idea, that's great, that he gave you, David, what
Yeah.
David said, I think that's so smart, thank you very much.
Commissioner Meyer?
Yeah, thanks. So I'm glad we touched on the kind of diminishing onboarding of the new grinders, and that's reflected in the CIP. You can see out 5 years, it slowly is decreasing a couple $1,000s a year, $100,000 a year. So for these new positions for installing over the next 5 years and beyond, what kind of, I mean, I'm sure there's some sort of routine replacement or maintenance that these workers will be able to not only advance in their career, but over the next 5 to 10 years, as grinder installs slow down, they're going to be useful to.
Yeah, so preventative maintenance, you know, right now, we really don't have a program. We're working on that. So we want to hit each grinder one to 2 times a year to look at the panels, the pumps, to try to be more proactive and not reactive. So that would lessen then the calls. I think sewer last year we had almost 400 call-outs. Typically, Monday's a heavy call-out day from the weekend, you know, where something sewer backs up or a grinder or pump. So obviously, as more grinders come on, the calls can increase. As the system ages, those calls increase. So as the installs are going down, the new hires would transition, and the 2 current employees would transition more into the preventative maintenance, and then the call-outs that happen as the system ages.
So we tried to be innovative, because you're getting a new garbage truck.
Oh, yeah.
Can you tell them about that?
Yeah, we looked at an electric garbage truck, and currently Mack makes a side loader.
Oh, the Mac makes it, that's fantastic. Wow.
And we just purchased a side loader, I believe, last fiscal year. In this year's budget, it's a front loader, which they currently don't have in electric. But the side loader, with the chassis, they recommended additional warranty because of the batteries. And then the actual body of the, where the garbage goes, is about $150,000 just for the back end, the body. But total with the chassis, the additional warranty, you're a little over $600,000.
So needless to say, we won't be going to electric garbage trucks anytime
Yeah,
soon.
so-
So for 900,000, we can save 100.
It's
$100 or 100,000?
It's something we're gonna keep obviously monitoring, and if that cost comes down and is warranted, it's definitely something we're interested in. We're gonna go take a look at the truck just to kind of see, they say it can last a whole day and all the routes back and forth to the transfer station.
I'd like to see that battery.
Yeah, yeah.
Where is the truck? Where is it? You said you wanted to look at it.
West Palm's gonna be getting one. I guess Miami-Dade's looking, they purchased a couple, so they're kind of the first in the
The guinea
state,
pigs?
or at southeast Florida with these trucks, so.
Is the average weight of that truck the same as a regular garbage truck? It looks so massive.
I don't know. I would suspect it would be heavier with the battery packs on there.
Okay.
I'd like to see our sailfish on the side of that, I'll tell you. And maybe this is a question for Jolie, but when I noticed the top line numbers for Stormwater Fund, we were lower than 2021 current, and when I went through, we have 325,000 listed for our current budget cycle for 2021 in debt proceeds. We don't have that listed for this coming year or in the 2020 audited. We have a grant planned coming through, the state grant for the Tressler baffle. I just don't can you explain to me what the debt proceeds is? And
There was a proposal to borrow money in stormwater last year to do
Okay.
an interfund loan.
Got it.
Plans changed, that was never executed, so that's why there's a drastic change in that. So
Got it.
that was adopted plan last year to try and help the stormwater fund get to a new level of self-sufficiency. However, we didn't execute that plan.
And
So
we-
that gets back to the normal stormwater has a long-standing loan from a long time ago.
Right.
That they're almost done with.
Well, just looking at our, estimated revenues versus the appropriations, I mean, of course, barring complete catastrophe, we're still within a good margin of error. I was happy to see that even with the, not having the debt proceeds, so. And we increased the stormwater, ERU cost, 2 years ago?
Last year.
Within the last year, right, okay. So, yeah, that was a nice chunk of change up from 800K to 1.2, 1.3.
Yeah, my ears hurt from the complaint, so.
Yeah, I got a lot of complaints.
So did
about
I,
that.
but, I mean, hey, we're talking about Stuart, talking about Florida.
Mayor, I wanted to ask, where's the trams come under? Are they under engineering? I want to talk about the trams.
We got rid of them.
Oh, CRA. CRA.
CRA is the funder, but their expense item is what account?
Microtrans.
And taking care of them,
Yeah.
all that, yeah.
And it's on the 64th page of the PDF, 1232 microtransit operation.
And they fall under Milton.
Just,
Which makes them perfect.
They get a lot of compliments, I'll tell you that.
His rating just went up by city attorney. Another one.
I seriously thought that they were under Kralski when Sandra was here. No.
No, they're under
Public
Milton's
Works.
shop.
Madam Mayor, one more question, but this may have actually been for Mr. Leggett. But page 56, very bottom, sorry, I'm going by my notes, but it's underwater freestanding fixture for the sailfish fountain. And it's a new item. What does that mean?
Those are to replace the lights in the fountain itself,
Okay,
the uplighting.
okay.
Those are to replace all of those.
You're not doing anything to the fixture and the freestand, it's just the lighting that,
The lighting, yes.
perfect.
Are they gonna be the color changing LEDs?
Psychedelic colors every 5
We need
minutes.
to go to color changing LEDs, man, so we ain't gonna put gels on these things.
I would love to go that route.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
They are not that expensive.
Mr. Volker, are we done with Mr. Volker?
I guess lastly, I just wanted to talk quickly about the alternative water supply, just to bring you
The
all up
money,
to speed
okay.
on that project. Right now, it's currently out to bid. Wednesday, August 11th is a big milestone on two fronts. The first being its FDP's SRF meeting. So we find out about the funding for the project and also if we get any principal loan forgiveness. So that happens on Wednesday, August 11th, and then the second thing that happens that same day is the bid opening. So we'll actually know the cost and know the funding on the same day. So I'm hoping to bring the actual award of the construction contract to the first meeting in September, and then have construction start on that project in October. And we're giving the contractor 2 years for construction. Most likely it'll go longer, just, with what's happening on a lot of the manufacturers brought up during the bid process, just, with steel and parts and all that, motors, pumps, we're having issues getting with the long lead times. So we'll give them 2 years, but we expect it to probably be 2 to 3 years for construction. But look for that to start October of, the beginning of the fiscal year 2020.
This is for the entire RO facility, just phase one of.
This will be
1 million.
phase one, so for the actual work within the plant. And then shortly after that, we'll probably put out to bid the deep injection well, the modification to that. So that will probably happen January before the wet season. And then the concentrate pipeline will probably happen prior to next summer. So those are kind of the three components. The reason we want to get the facility started first, that's kind of the long lead item. The other two projects, the deep injection well and the concentrate pipeline, those are probably 4 to 6 month projects. So that can happen anytime within that 2 to 3 years the facility is actually under construction.
So after the facility's done, we'd be up and running for the 1 million gallon.
Yes.
Phase one.
Yeah.
Would be complete
Yep.
in roughly 3 years.
Yes.
Wonderful.
Just a quick update, staff is tossing around, of the last couple of years or so, we've done appropriation requests through the state, and staff is now just having the start of these discussions on what we should be asking for in this next appropriation. I believe we're done asking on that side, so we're actually looking at asking for an appropriation for resiliency project for Flagler Park as it relates to sea level rise and sustainability for the park.
I would ask for
And I see that delegation
Oberdorf
meeting's
and,
been scheduled for the 16th.
Yes, the delegation has been scheduled.
will we ask Oberdorf, the entire legislative delegation?
Yes, yeah. That would be you again this year. I think you did, I think you're gonna do 2 in 1 year because they're doing the legislation early.
Let's see. Mr. Volker,
Any other questions?
thank you, and thank your
you.
department for all
You're
that you
welcome.
do.
Mr. Freeman.
Mr.
And-
Freeman and Ms.
I wanna see if she gets it.
Sabdas, but Mr. Kevin.
You even had Mike Martell saying it backwards the other
I
day.
did the same thing,
No.
right?
Zach just
She got me,
Gandy's
she got me
always
messed up, I was like,
first,
oopsie.
Gandy's first.
Good evening, Mayor, Commission, Kevin Freeman, City Development Director, and I've got with me tonight Pinal Gandhi Savdas, the CRA Administrator, and also in the audience we have Steve Nicolosi, the building official. We've had a very busy year. Have you experienced yourself with a number of things that have come through to the board for determination? We were up around 40% on items that needed to come through to a board or a commission for decision. And that's with the pandemic that we have at the moment. So, and we've not seen a slowdown, even though we've seen a reduction recently in the number of things that are coming forward to the board for determination. We're still behind the scenes very busy with that. Over the last 2 years, we've experienced around 2,500 building permits coming through the system. Private investment in the city is averaging over $80 million a year through building valuations.
How much?
18.
18
0.
million? 80 million, okay.
And so we've started to have this discussion in the community about strong towns. And one of the basic issues that a strong town should be experiencing is private investment in comparison to public capital investment. And for a town of our size to be receiving that amount of private investment annually is exceptional. And we see that occurring next year and maybe beyond that. So we're in a good place. From the budget point of view, you'll see that we've tried to keep it fairly flat and stable. We have a couple of consultants that we would like to hire during the next year, one for an impact study and another in respect of the sustainability plan, which we hope will be coordinated citywide and other departments be involved with that, and you'll see that, I think, running through the budget. There's one position that we're asking for to be able to hire, would be an engineer in training, and that position would be under the supervision of the engineer, the city engineer.
Would that be like an apprentice engineer?
I think we could actually move to an apprentice engineer. It's basically what we're experiencing now is more of a requirement to go out to external resource to do engineering reviews, specifically when we're looking at stormwater designs for infill projects. The position would be funded entirely through the building permit fund, and its responsibilities of he or she responsibilities will be to look at permits, review construction documents, and just give us general feedback under the higher supervision. We do a lot of external consultants. We're hoping that in that respect that will be more balanced out, and the cost and speed saving, having it internal would be a beneficial element to the department.
Mr. Freeman, so that would be a registered, signed and sealed engineer, is that correct?
Not at higher. So the engineer would be under the supervision of the director of,
Under Mr. Volker?
Mr. Volker. And part of the attractiveness of being able to hire at that place is very much like an apprentice, is you're getting on-the-job training, you're getting supervision for your license, and you're getting quite a variety of work within the city. We do have a number of projects that involve stormwater, roadways, building permits,
Can we call them development engineer apprentice? So that, it seems like we're training them to be an engineer instead of training them to do development review and the things that are necessary, so.
Part of their job will be to review permits and construction drawings for the building department.
Will they also be doing cross-review for like CRA projects and stuff like that?
So we have, projects which are handled by engineering and also the CRA. We would be good to have.
Will this save money from having to outsource to private companies?
Not signed and sealed.
We usually
I think that's still
Bill
a
out.
necessary evil, because a standpoint of balance and staying unbiased or whatever, I think they're still gonna have to send stuff out.
Okay.
there will be requirement for really detailed reviews maybe that go out, but the applicants will invoice for that work. We do have smaller projects, and we're fairly concerned with the internal review being on hand for smaller projects such as stormwater infill, which we've done a lot of regulatory change to get that on board.
Like the
And I think we just
stormwater.
want to, through the building permit system, be
Like
able
the
to.
stormwater at people's houses and stuff that we
Yeah.
talked about earlier this year, or this last year, I think it was.
So just for transparency,
Yes.
if you have this engineer apprentice, engineer in training,
Yeah.
where does your job description stop from saying that they have to have so many years of engineering and either experience or education, so that we know that engineers there, should we just call them a development review specialist and have them, put something in the job description that includes engineering, education, and, work experience?
Well, we're looking for somebody who has a, you know, a college education
Right.
through engineering rather than through
But
development.
not
or
signed
planning.
and sealed engineer.
Not, we won't get a signed and sealed engineer for what the cost that we're looking at.
Okay.
We're looking to recruit, you know, down the scale, and have the city provide that opportunity for somebody to work through to become a signed and sealed engineer. I think this profession, the engineering profession, as you've already heard from the engineering director, is that they're in short supply. And unless we offer something that is attractive to somebody coming out of school and being able to get experience in variety of work, then we're going to struggle in getting somebody on board. And I think the opportunity for that person is not solely with development or building, it's working with public works and also experiencing what working with the city is all about.
Would that come with a promise that the city will be helping them to complete their education or to certify them in some way?
I think we will be looking at that as part of the hiring process to see what we can offer.
We already have a tuition assistance program, correct?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so,
just for the,
and we encourage people to advance their licenses
Yes.
in any department, so.
But at this salary, it looks like we want somebody who has a degree,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
I'm hoping,
Yes.
because I'd apply.
Some experience, yeah. Yeah.
This position would be under the development department, and what?
It would be funded through
It's
the
in building.
building permit receipts. Essentially, the position would be under, would be operating for the development department, but would be situated, I think, more than likely in the public works department, under the direct supervision of the engineer.
Tim, for them to use this as their experiential credit, they need to work under a PE.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, in order to get the PE license, you know, you typically have to have several PEs sign off on the person. So, you know, I could be one of those people, or consultants that they work with could also be, you know, the remaining members. So.
Okay, as long as personnel takes care of nepotism and all those other things, we're fine. No nepotism, we're good. Mr. Nicolosi, do you have anything? I know that you're under Mr.
Anything to
Freeman.
add, it'd just be a great benefit. As you know, we've had issues with stormwater, and we're trying to resolve that. We've made some changes in our ordinances, but we need someone to really be able to look at it that knows more than I do about the stormwater.
Absolutely.
I thought you knew everything.
Thank you.
Everything else.
Thank you. CRA?
As for the CRA, the engineer.
Sorry. Can I ask a question?
Should we call, Mr. Nicolosi, do you need us to call on you again so you notches up? Do you want to have a question for Mr. Nicolosi?
Well, for building/development, I have a
Okay.
few for
Hold
CRA,
on,
but
Ms.
if I could
Yeah.
quickly ask.
Okay.
Okay, so in addition to, or in lieu of, or maybe this engineer, one thing I have noticed is that for a few projects, there seems to be maybe, it's like a lack of staffing, or there's a lack of during the construction phase of a project, and then maybe after post, like temporary CO or post CO, a lack of checkups or some mechanism that we can't enforce, development to a plan. So for instance, we noticed that there were no trees left on Osprey Preserve, even though their tree protection plan had lots of trees that were supposed to be preserved. And then we had the issue with the hotel north of the bridge. It's not I'm not criticizing staff, I just wonder, is there room, is there need for, it seems to me like maybe there is need for additional staffing so that we can better monitor projects that are currently in development post-review to ensure that they comply with all of the
I
plans.
think that those things would be caught at some point. And I think we have a very observant community, and I think those things, if they're happening at the time, get caught.
Yeah.
Things are inspected through the process. I think it's for the department to better organize the neighborhood services piece, to integrate that with the pre-inspection observation of things.
Okay.
So I can see that could be tightened. I'm not sure that we would need additional personnel
Okay.
to get that. And one of the things we've gone through this year is the integration of the neighborhood services into our department, and we've already engaged them in a process of expanding their outreach into the city, specifically in terms of addressing things before they get to code enforcement.
Okay.
Is to, it's sort of a mentoring phase that we're going through at the moment,
Right.
and giving them more confidence to get out there and deal with things before it gets to code enforcement, understanding the development process, and things can be done before it gets to that point.
Okay.
And so myself and the building official are working to get that better tight.
Okay. I mean, we earlier were just
Yeah.
bending over backwards to ask public safety if they needed more help.
Yeah.
So I want to extend also to say if there are needs,
Yeah.
Because I have noticed that there are some things do fall through the cracks. So
And I think if we, as with any other department, if we thought that we could justify that, we would ask for it.
Okay.
I don't think we do.
Okay. And then I guess the rest are for CRA. So
CRA?
Thank you. Panal Gandhi Sabdas, CRA Administrator. I just want to add for this engineer position is that currently CRA depends on Public Works, Tim's department, to review the engineering plans that we do for streetscape improvements or any other construction projects. And, this will help to take the workload off of them. But we do want this engineer to coordinate closely with Public Works, with their utilities projects to make sure that the streetscape project works and in conjunction with Public Works projects. So I think this position would definitely be a benefit to the CRA also, to have somebody in-house. Currently, I'm kind of dependent on the outside consultant to take full responsibility of the plans. And sometimes, things can get missed, and so we definitely need somebody in-house to help us out with that.
Thank you.
And as far as the CRA goes, for fiscal year 2022, there's going to be an increase of 19% in TIF revenue, bringing us to $3.1 million for fiscal year 2022. The county's contribution is $1.7 million, and the city's contribution from the general fund is approximately $1.3 million, bringing us to approximately $3.1 million. I just want to just highlight some of the accomplishments for fiscal year 2021 for the CRA. We completed the streetscape improvement project in the Fraser Crescent subdivision. We also successfully completed 100% design for Seminole Streetscape project, which was presented to the board. We applied for the water quality grant for that project, and we did get through the first phase approval process. We expect to hear from them in 2022 if we are awarded. We completed the conceptual design for MLK, and we've been out to the neighborhood, a couple of events to get feedback. We also plan to go back out again to get additional feedback, maybe have a neighborhood meeting. Also 90% design completed for Riverside Park neighborhood, which is north of the bridge, north of the old bridge. And that's expected to go out for bid. The demonstration project is expected to go out for bid this year. And we received $600,000 of TAP grant for that project also. So that's more than half of the cost for the project that's going to be covered through the grant. We installed kiosk at near Duffy's for promoting downtown events. We also installed kiosk on Colorado for the Arts and Entertainment District. They're also working on the mosaic art work near that kiosk. We're gonna see how we're gonna install that. And I know that was something that the board is interested, Commissioner Matheson is definitely interested in seeing how we can install that throughout downtown in sidewalks. So we're gonna see how that goes, so then we can kind of implement the same design or same way in other sidewalks. We installed high visibility crosswalks in East Stuart neighborhood. The Federal Highway Median Improvement Project is underway. That's expected to be completed by August. We completed the US 1 corridor study and Triangle District Master Plan. We entered into a contract with CGA to do the Guy Davis design, and we were awarded $750,000 in CDBG grant for the housing rehab program. So we've had a successful year, I would say. But with the increase in funds, we do plan to undertake some new projects. CRA is looking to contract with Treasure Coast Regional Planning Council to do the form-based code for the East Stewart neighborhood and the Creek Arts and Entertainment District. Treasure Coast Regional Planning Council was involved with the master plan when they did the East Stewart master plan in 2002. So they'll be reviewing that and seeing what was implemented, what wasn't, and update that plan. And so they'll be working on LDC plan amendments and comp plan amendments that will be generated from community input. We're also planning to do sidewalk improvements in the Stipman neighborhood, which is bounded by the High School Avenue, Palm Beach Road, Ocean Boulevard, and MLK. So we're looking to do some sidewalk improvements. There's some sidewalks missing in that neighborhood, and we think that would be a real good benefit for the kids in that neighborhood to provide that connectivity to Stewart Middle School and also the elementary school. And I think that project would qualify for the TAP grant and Safe Route to School. So those are a couple of grants that I would be looking into for that project. We're still in the design phase for the Guy Davis Park. Once we have the conceptual plan and the site plan, we will present that to the board. And I have budgeted for the phase 2 for that project, but we will be looking for direction from the board once the phase 1 is completed. Triangle Master Plan will be presented to the CRB and CRA board in August, upcoming month. And there are some recommendations in the plan that I would like to implement. So you'll see some of the recommendations in there, and we could do a demonstration project from that, and just to show that area that, that we're interested in investing in that area. So I have budgeted $250,000 for that project. Federal highway implementation, like I said, we're going to be coordinating with Treasure Coast Regional Planning Council to do a tree program. So it would be from Joan Jefferson to Canner Highway. We'll be looking to doing some improvements to create a gateway corridor to downtown from US 1. And I budgeted for the MLK complete street design. That's a large portion of the budget. But I think it's important to have a design in order to apply for grants. I do plan to apply for multiple grants for that project, but I can't do that unless I have a design. So I think once we have the design, we can start looking at applying for grants. That's all I have.
Thank you.
Can I ask a question? It's probably, I guess it's development.
You're the mayor.
Yeah.
I didn't want to say it.
Hey, it's late. And I just wanted to ask our development department, because you're seeing all the developments. Are we doing anything, and maybe this goes to Commissioner McDonald and Commissioner Matheson because they sit on the MPO. Are we doing anything to look at the potential to ask Marty or to see if there are any stops or anything on the north side of town that are needed, or anything that's needed in the city of Stuart? in terms of that public transportation based on the multifamily units that we're having. Is there anything
Well,
going on?
We did reach out when those developments first came into the city, and
I believe also, it might have been Milton who was with us when Vice Mayor, we met with the county, at the county, and spoke with them about that subject. And they're open for us to submit to them where we would like to see these stops at, but they currently don't have any funding to implement any of new stops.
Yeah, and I think it's not the MPO, it's actually the county
Well,
that
it's
is.
the
Yeah, yeah, that's
Yeah.
how the county does it.
Yeah.
The Marty system has a new director, Claudette Mayhem, who we met with. There's a new person, met him briefly, who's filling, who's taken over that position. And so he is going to be more involved with the MPO. In prior years, there was this separation between the Marty and the MPO. So hopefully that will come back and we'll be
That would be good.
hopefully going a step further than just submitting where the city would like them to examine Marty stops. But that's, I look forward to that increased involvement with Marty and MPO.
But I know during a lot of these PUDs, the commission has asked, for those bus stops at those locations, and they've noted that in their projects.
And with regard to Martin Luther King, you've kind of broken that into 2 phases, but you're not doing a second phase on the east side right now?
That's right, yeah. I think we are gonna continue with the sidewalk, but as far as doing a complete street, I don't think that's gonna happen past Tarpon. It'll just be sidewalks.
Okay, and I'll wait till the Regional Planning Council does their study if we're gonna
Right.
talk about some other things along there. Does any, have Mr. Meyer?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I was really happy to see form-based code in the budget. And so you touched on that. Just wanted to clarify, you said that we're planning on it for East Stuart and the Creek districts?
Correct.
Just those 2? Okay.
Does that includes an outreach to the Eastern community also,
Yes,
right?
it's both, yeah, to both districts.
So I know we were waiting on like a full proposal from them. Is that our best guess, or have they given us the proposal?
They have given us a
Okay.
proposal.
What-
We figured we'll start with 2 districts, and that becomes a template, and
Okay.
then we can add more districts as we, for next budget years.
So anything south of Florida Street, going down to Decker Avenue and so on, that won't be in there?
Florida Street is part of, that
Just
is
south-
in the,
I'm saying
that's
south
in
of
the
it.
Creek District.
Decker,
Not along Dixie Highway, though.
Not
Okay.
Dixie Highway,
No, but that's what she's talking
okay.
about. Florida down to Decker is Dixie Highway.
Okay.
all right.
But so I just, I don't want to completely screw everything up, but if we can look at maybe a form-based code while they're working on it, if they can tackle the triangle as well. I don't know have you discussed the Triangle District as being part of that scope?
We have,
I know they're working on the triangle study, but.
Yeah, we're just finishing up the triangle study, and my goal was to do some demonstration project this
Okay.
year, and then next year, maybe use the same template to do the form-based code over there.
Okay. Well, I think East Stuart and the Creek are both, very good candidates for form-based code. I think the triangle is too.
Yeah, I do too.
Especially considering, we have, who knows, there's some things out there that could be of interest to us. So I just want to make sure, maybe if there was a way for us to incorporate all 3 districts together
Just
into one.
increase in budget.
Yeah.
Commissioner Meyer, my comment was gonna be about form-based code on the US 1 corridor. So, which the Regional Planning Council has already given us their presentation on that one, so.
You're asking
Yeah.
for a follow-up?
Well, I guess as you can see, at least a couple of us are interested in form-based code in certain neighborhood districts. Would I be correct in assuming, since that study was already done for the East Stewart area, that should be a lower estimate if they're just revising that?
Well, it's just not a master plan update. This also includes LDC amendment,
Yeah, it's
code
different than-
update,
I
Previous-
think
plan
they're overdue
amendments.
for
Previous
that.
thing was a charrette.
It was just a
concept.
vision.
Yeah,
Okay.
Like a master plan.
They're
This is-
overdue
And there
for
was no
detailed
actual
study.
code at all.
There
Yeah.
wasn't.
No.
It's amazing, like, I've walked through the work that the council did for the county CRAs, and I've heard from some people that it makes it so that we don't have a job to do anymore. That's not true. But it provides very thorough, it's so much more than just the standard, setbacks and building height and density and occupancy. It's design guidelines, it's meeting the street, it's a very thorough vision for.
And that's, I guess, my hesitancy is with East Stuart, we're trying to spur development and give them more options. And my fear is form-based code could limit those options in some place like East Stuart, whereas the Triangle District or US 1 corridor, we're trying to have a cohesive design spurred up by an area that, already has development. We're just trying to tighten it up to
The reality is with the form-based code, the fear by the applicants and those looking to purchase property is removed. They know that if they buy this land and they see this form-based code, they don't have any risk of public hearing. They can come in, buy it, and do what's on that code. Right now, there's literally no guaranteed approval of any use of the land because almost the way that the current code is written, every single thing needs a deviation or an exception and a public hearing. And as a result, no one wants to touch it because they're afraid that they'll get a rejection and they'll hold the property for all this time and they won't be able to do their plan anyway.
Well, I was going to ask that it would be wrapped in with, because I know we had talked about bringing back the idea of the East Stuart rezoning and.
Yes.
Okay.
So I think what we heard from the initial outreach to the citizens there, it's the perception of certainty of what they would like to see. And I
Guiding
think
principle.
that's the skill in a really well-developed form-based code, is to be able to demonstrate more easily to a community what's going to happen on this particular street.
Yeah.
And I think if it's done correctly, you can build in flexibility into that.
Thank you.
The biggest part of this is having the ear open to the community. And the reason why we've, and Pinal have chosen these particular areas is we think they're more suitable for this initial outreach and for the city to be able to get engaged in quite complex issues in these particular communities who have some energy to hopefully then drag us through other areas that maybe perceived to be slightly easier, but then show that we could do it in these areas. This is a very, I think, very complex initiative. It's new for the city. It's really set to engage the community that they've never been engaged before. And if we can hear them and develop something and show that the beauty of a form-based code, you can actually show what it's going to look like more easily. I think that's a challenge, and I think we specifically set these because of the height of that challenge. And I think one of the things that we really trust the Treasure Coast Regional Planning Council to do is to be able to do this outreach and pull these things together.
Thank you. Thank you. I don't know.
One last question. I know we have manager recommend is zeroed out for the FDOT coordination. Was that just rolled up under professional services?
Yeah.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks. So we've had the building department give their input. I know we have personnel here, we have IT here, we have community services. Is there any other departments who have?
So at this point, if you guys had any questions for any other departments, I'd ask them to come up. If not, then I would like to entertain, or I shouldn't say that, would request a motion.
Okay, with regard, let me wait for the budget 5.0 first. Or maybe you can make that, because I have a question after that.
I'll make the motion. And then, or do we need to discuss?
Motion to not to exceed?
The motion not to exceed millage.
Okay.
I'll
Troy?
second the motion.
Okay,
It's 5.0, right?
5.0.
Okay,
Okay.
Mary. Okay, any public comment? Any public comment on the motion regarding the millage rate, the proposed millage rate? This is our second budget workshop. We have our budget director here who can answer any questions from our commission or from members of the public. Are there any members of the public on the Zoom, Mr. Paul?
No, ma'am.
Yes, sir. Miss, City Clerk?
Commissioner Meyer,
Yes.
Commissioner Bruner,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Matheson,
Yes.
Mayor Clark,
Yes.
Commissioner McDonald.
Yes.
Yes. I have a question on discussion and deliberation. I received a package from, I think it's A to Z versus Rudge, and I'm gonna talk to Mr. Mortel and Mr.,
Gaius.
okay, yeah, that person. And see if we can try, if there's something that needs to be explained or to be done, maybe we can bring it to the second meeting in August, because the 9th we have the Costco. And if there's a question or we can figure out a format or what to do, I like to talk to you guys and figure that out. And of course, all the commissioners are privy to talk to you guys and give you their input as to how we can try to hear what the questions are, even though I think Mr. Martel has advised me that there's no actual pending lawsuit, so we can't have a shade meeting. But if there's an issue, we can at least set a time aside with a format to have Mrs. Rudge present something to us, and we'll see. Is that something that I'll talk to you about? I'm just one person getting
Right.
this information, so.
Well, it would be up to the
And I'll talk to
commission if
them.
they
Mr.
were.
Martel, isn't there a settlement agreement that we actually have with?
Well, the conversation I had with the mayor wasn't about an actual authorization or hearing. What she was asking me to do is show up at a D&D or something like that and just give you guys a history and timeline of what occurred. In fact, the settlement agreement, if I was directed to do that, I would absolutely include. The question is, do you care to hear a history and timeline? There isn't a case pending or not, it's the discretion of the board.
No,
No.
I mean, I've
been here. and it's-
spoken to you about it. I mean, is the question, do we want to have it as an agenda item on the commission?
It's not my request, it's the mayor's request. So that, yes, if she was asking to have you guys review it to hear, because you get.
Please
you
just
get
give us a
filings in your
once over,
boxes.
once and for all again,
But you're asking for an opportunity for
for her to probably.
speak.
And if that's so, then we'd have to work on a
And
format to do that.
I don't know that it will solve it.
It's
It
not
may be
going
that Mrs. Rudge wants an opportunity to tell her side of the story publicly, and maybe if she says it, she'll be satisfied and be done with it. And I don't believe that's the case, but it's, anything's worth a try to get, if you guys think that will have some solution, I don't have any objection to it.
I'm okay with anyone speaking publicly. My caution now, though, is we are in an active election.
Well, it'll be after the election.
It'll be up to the election.
Okay.
If in fact.
The election is on the 17th, but we don't know what her standing will
My
be.
hesitation would be related to the fact that the commission can't start creating audiences for disputes that don't exist.
That's
If there
true
isn't
too,
something
that's true
pending,
too.
Are
you
we-
start creating
It's
a
very-
forum for people to start airing
It's getting
their
bad
concerns.
enough around here with all this.
Are we in any sort of litigation
No,
With Mrs. Rudge, the answer is
pertaining to
No.
discussion? Okay.
no.
That's not true.
Excuse me, ma'am, hold on.
I have-
Okay, we're just trying to ask if this needs to be, and I can talk to you again, city manager, and I know that Mrs. Rudge has had a chance to talk to you guys, but Mrs. Rudge, this is not a big discussion today, but we're trying to talk about this and figure it out. Should I, Mr. Mortel?
It's your discretion as mayor.
Yes, ma'am.
First of all, thank you, Vice Mayor Matheson, for bringing up that pay raise, because it was 55%, so people were upset about the timing and the amount. Now, This one is not being honest with you. There is an open case. If you would look at the docket, you'll see that it's open. There is pending litigation, and I am so tired of him continuing to snow you guys, and none of you will go look at the docket. Now it's open. I was just coming to talk about the budget tonight. This man is lying. I'm sick of it. The case is open.
Thank you.
Based on that response, I don't think you should have the hearing.
Are you crazy? No.
Okay.
Hell
Thank you. I just wanted to bring it up. Thank you so much. Mr., anybody else? Anything else
I
for
have-
discussion and deliberation?
Comments about the budget, general comments, now that we've established a millage. Well, for those of you that remember, I brought up something about the river and finances pertaining to that as a way, well, I'd like to create a river protection fund. And my goal of last year, towards the end of that budget meeting, was to use the $50,000 from under our attorney's outside legal counsel fees. And to me, I'm not saying I want to actively use this fund that I want to create, but, you know, budgeting is all about priorities. And I've made it very clear that one of my top priorities is and should be for the whole city, water quality. We've made some headway in the push in the LOSUM process, but none of that is set in stone. We've won maybe a very small battle in a war that's been going on for decades. And, you know, the ability to establish a river defense fund so that if in the future we ever did get in a situation where we're in a lawsuit, one of the advantages of that is we would never have to talk about actual dollar amounts. We would have that fund and discuss it over the, as the river defense fund, and not specifically say, you know, how much we were willing to spend if we went into litigation to protect our residents from what's being discharged on them. So I would motion that we
Well, before you make a motion, let me just get some clarification. So, you know I would love to take any kind of money from the city attorney I can, but
good to know.
At the end of a fiscal year, is it, the legality-wise, can we take the balance of what's left in there and move it to a reserve fund?
Absolutely.
Okay.
The,
Yes, yeah, that's it.
the issue, so 2 years ago, I believe, Dave Peters had mentioned that he had a budgeted surplus, and we set that aside for river defense that year.
Yeah.
The problem with using an already existing appropriation in the budget is that in actuality, at the end of that year, even though we used part of that money to pay for the consultant with the county, stormwater didn't actually have a surplus that year. So you tried to use money that we budgeted to have that we never had, right? You know, I'm gonna use the vacation fund money to pay for a new car, but then you don't get the bonus, so there was no vacation fund to use. I would say if you wanna start setting up a fund, an actual fund, because if the city attorney has that money for outside legal counsel and something happened, and we use the outside legal counsel money, then your protection fund is not.
I think what Commissioner Matheson was
Well-
doing is retroactively saying that because it didn't get spent this year.
I know, we already got that, we
Right.
established
You
that.
can.
Part of it is.
You can grab whatever's left at the end of the year and reserve that however you want. I'm
But it's already in the budget now.
But we roll that over,
Well,
right?
the budget you have right now, any dollar that was
Right.
left from anything was already rolled
already-
forward and applied, so it's already been consumed. There isn't 50 grand sitting in my office, I can promise you.
I understand that. You would have.
I've looked, I would have spent it.
Part of the desire to link it to the city attorney is it would be a river defense fund. So I'm not necessarily saying I want to use the money that's there. I'm mostly pushing for us to allocate money for a river defense fund. I'm not gonna tell our finance director where to come up with the money.
A
I just
litigation fund should be
correlated that, you know.
But if you don't do it this way, it's an additional $50,000. If you
Right.
do it this way, it's appropriated at the beginning of the budget cycle. If we are fortunate enough to not have to use outside counsel, we take it and move it to the reserve for the River Defense Fund.
Okay.
And so it's not a new $50,000 appropriation.
Do you want to make a motion, Mr. Matheson?
Can I ask a question?
Mr.
Well,
Meyer?
Yeah,
Can we talk about it?
make a motion.
Mr. Meyer? Speak.
So years ago, our first crack at this, Vice Mayor, we created on the fly a river defense fund, but it was not legal in nature. It was project oriented. We'd funded some Kilroys, and we did the Roundup replacement and
Dr. Gilmore.
yeah, and Dr. Gilmore. So what you're advocating for is something that is inherently, it's meant to be litigious in nature. It's a fund that the piggy bank we're creating to use someday if and when we might need to sue.
I don't wanna just narrow it just to suing. It would take commission action to use it, but it would be a fund, sinking fund from the outside council for river defense. And, you know.
It would be river plaintiff. We are not gonna get sued on behalf of the river, so it would be.
River
to be
plaintiff.
the affirmative,
Yes.
right.
And so
But
you,
in defense of our river, yeah.
Yeah.
river
and
plaintiff.
you said earlier that your idea with this is that then the money, the dollar amount isn't attached to it, but, I mean, we can't hide money, and it's a matter of, it would be listed somewhere publicly. So if I guess, am I understanding you correctly? You were saying it wouldn't be,
Well, what I'm saying is, if we were going down the path of litigation, it wouldn't be advantageous for us to say, yes, we'll spend $8,000 on the lawsuit, let's make a budget amendment and come up with that for the lawsuit. If we had a river defense fund, but I do not want to specifically limit it to litigation. You know, we would refer to the River Defense Fund in the course of what our target is. We don't have to specifically say, we're gonna spend $8,000.
I'm not opposed to this, but I do need, just on the face, but what I really need is, maybe when we come back before a final budget hearing, is a much more thorough articulated description, because I'm not understanding exactly what you're looking for. If we have $50,000 in our litigation fund, outside litigation fund, we can tap that for any type of litigation.
I think what Commissioner Matheson's discussing is putting a line item with $50,000 in it in all future budgets moving forward to accumulate, so that if you guys want to hire Orca to do testing, or if you want to do an expert to do
something
whatever,
like
then 5 years from now, it's got
this-
250 grand in it.
I don't like maybe it's the word
River
defense
issues.
fund, I'm
Right,
I
that's-
I'm
can
stuck on
come
this.
up with more specific, but
The litigation one doesn't go
in
away.
theory, that would change with commission action. So this would encompass advice from experts on what to do.
And I'm
in our
fine with experts
situation.
and lobbyists, and what I think is that I don't want to get into a situation where.
I don't want to say it's all for,
And and
A lawsuit.
it may not be what you're saying, but what I'm hearing is litigation, and I don't want to send the wrong message, for example, to Colonel Kelly, and Jackie Thurlow, and other stakeholders.
agreed. That's why I
So-
keep it, when I say it, I really kind of
So,
stop at River Defense Fund. But if some of this in the future was used to hire Dr. Gary Goforth, I know
I think
a year ago he
River
offered his
Advocacy
services
Fund
for
would be
free.
better.
River advocacy.
You know, to consult with Orca, to consult with the Marine Resources Council, if that required, and, you know, finances to do that, this fund could be tapped for that, but it would take commission action, obviously, to do that and discuss that. The goal right now would be to create a sinking river defense fund annually.
My question would be, if we were to do this, what do we take the money away from?
Well, exactly, that's why I was saying we
That's-
sweep it at
that's-
the end of the fiscal year of a currently appropriated item. If we don't, then I have to add a new $50,000.
So we can appropriate the we do have $50,000 from the previous budget.
No,
We
because it's
don't.
already in this budget. That
Okay, so
money's
it's in,
already
that's what I thought.
Mayor?
So, I
I
mean,
want to put you on.
it was probably
You're fine.
something that,
What the city manager is saying is, look, if you guys approve the motion, it doesn't have anything to do with this October's budget. It'll give direction to the city manager next April or next May, when he starts formulating the budget, before he submits a budget to you guys, to include $50,000 as a set-aside for the river defense.
Well, that would be for fiscal year 23.
23, right.
So, but I'm
Right.
talking about if he wants it now, so me and Jolie, correct me if I'm
Mayor.
wrong,
Well,
he has not expended his money for outside fees this current fiscal year. So September 30th of this year, if that money is still sitting there,
Yeah.
we move that to.
But didn't you already use the money that's sitting there
No.
in putting this funding together?
You've used some of that.
That's not the way it
Well,
works.
no, just let me clarify this. The city manager just said the word if. So the difference between saying we'll take what's left and put it into a sinking fund, those two are kind of exclusive. A sinking fund would say, you're gonna direct me to put
I'm
money into
taking
an
it.
account and do it, versus let's just see if there's money left over at the end of the year. So one is a positive action on your part to put money into this fund, it's guaranteed to be funded. If you say, wait till the end of the year and see what's left, Mike may have not written a single check for outside legal counsel, but we had a hurricane, and general fund is $200,000 in the hole. Mike's $50,000 isn't there anyway. You understand what I'm saying? So-
It went bye-bye.
I mean, you know, so what I'm saying is at the end of the year, each department's budget, what's left or, you know, overspent gets smoothed out to the bottom line, and we do the puts and takes. We say, did general fund add to the savings account? Did it break even, or did it dip into the savings account?
So I haven't made the motion yet, but the desire, what I'm talking about would be, we would take what's left and add it to a sinking fund. Because
So then
I
in some
understand-
situations, you might not
And then-
fund it that year.
Exactly.
Okay.
and I would just like to hear more articulate what we, you know, more of a guideline of what it would be for. That's
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, would we
And-
cover like rain gardens and shoreline prevention, shoreline, living shorelines and,
Yeah, what is it going to, is it strictly consultants and litigation or could it be,
Can he come back in 2 weeks? Because I asked for,
50 grand.
2 weeks ago and was told to wait.
Well, I asked
And I
for
wanted
this
to
a
bring
year
it,
ago.
Okay, sorry, excuse me, people.
I will vote yes for this in December of 2022, when Kelly brings back his report and tells us what we're gonna do.
Mr. Meyer, Mr. Meyer, Mr.
Matheson.
Sorry,
Or are
thank
you
you.
waiting?
Yes,
Well,
did you even make a motion? I don't think you did.
No, this is,
Discussion.
I guess my other question is, I'm trying to get at, it sounds to me like part of this, and I don't, it's like, when you mention it, maybe you ruin the whole point of it, but it seems like part of the point is to have some sort of little threat, right? Is it sort of like, we have this thing here, we're committed to funding it, so, we're telling people that we're serious, and I'm not trying to say that to diminish it in any way, but is that part of the point, is that we've got this piggy bank to say, we're ready to fight?
I don't think we
part
can
of
fight
the
with
point is
50,000 or 1
If you are
million.
going to go down that route, what I learned from our discussions in 2019 were that it's not advantageous to have to sit up on the dais and talk about how much are you going to be willing to spend on a lawsuit.
Right,
Or-
but to
You
your
still have
point,
to.
let's say we've only got
You're still gonna have to.
$19,000 in the fund next year, and and something happens and we feel like we need to sue. We still have a hard limit. And if,
And by the way, if there's 175,000 in the fund,
it's,
the commission is still gonna have to authorize how much can be spent.
well, we're
Okay.
still,
You
we're
can
still gonna have.
say,
So-
we're not gonna spend more or up to that fund, and that's what we're using.
And
So
the
can we
other
bring
side
this
will just
back on the
blow
third
through your money
budget
that way.
workshop, or we
I
set
understand the
a
idea.
discussion for it? Another discussion for it?
We can do whatever you want to.
Well, and it also doesn't sound like it's just for litigation, it could be for other
Yeah.
stuff.
Yes.
And if it's for other stuff, I,
Well, I'll tell you what, I'll come back, you know, with a more detailed list. My thought was to leave it a little more general, because it would take 3 votes to tap into the fund.
Okay.
So if it was for research, it might eventually lead to litigation. Or if it was as Commissioner Bruner said, a year and a half from now, if our discharges are lessened by 65%, we might want to dissolve the fund, we might want to use it for rain gardens or whatnot. But that was my intent of leaving it general, as it's for river defense. You know, a year and a half from now, we might want to just consult with others as to what our next steps would be.
Okay, city manager, do you have enough information or direction, or?
Well, I don't have any direction yet to do anything with it. I mean, it's just a discussion at this point.
I'd like.
I mean, $50,000 a year, if you're looking at a lawsuit, you're gonna be waiting
That'll be
7,
too
8
much.
years
It's not
before you
enough
have
money.
enough money to do
It'll be
anything with
There's
it.
not
beyond your
But-
term limits.
But it does show some stewardship to have start having small funds for river advocacy. So, it does show some type of stewardship for the environment.
Right, but those items can be budgeted year to year if that's the
Okay.
direction of the
And
commission.
we're already doing a lot of projects,
Okay.
so that's what I'm trying to figure out,
Yeah.
like, this is a big, and I think Commissioner McDonald was saying that too, like, are we, I mean, I'm into the idea of this fund, but like, there's a bunch of stuff in the current budget that could
Covers
live in
those.
that fund too, you
Yeah.
know, I mean, if it's engineering, if it's, stuff that, improvements we're doing to Shepherd Park, like that, I could see that as being.
All those things are
Okay.
project-based that we are,
Those are
like you said, currently
project-based,
doing.
I guess.
I mean, if you're talking about wanting to have a piggy
Sinking
bank.
fund.
What's a war chest?
Yeah,
Sinking
perfect. I mean, a war chest, I mean, there's
Like a
reserves,
It'll
there's all
take us
kinds of
30
ways to
years
find the money to
get-
do this
30
with.
years to get to, if we had to do litigation.
So I guess that's why I ask if it's just about the symbol,
Yeah.
because, I mean, if we need to, if we have to litigate,
That's a
I think
scope of
this
it.
is, I just think this is a step too short. Like, if we need to litigate, we're gonna
have to
do
throw all
it.
in.
And it doesn't matter whether we have the fund or
Fund or
not.
not,
Like,
yeah.
just like if a hurricane comes, we're gonna pull $50,000 out of we're gonna do a budget appropriation and,
And I'll have it waiting.
Okay.
so
Yeah,
I
I'm
know,
sure you will.
I
So-
get what you're saying, Commissioner. I think maybe if you can,
So you
Withdraw
want
it.
it more defined instead of less, okay.
Okay, so you won't do anything tonight then? You're gonna bring back something another day?
I'll bring it back
Okay,
by the
Next
budget.
budget meeting.
thank you.
When is the
So-
next budget? When is it?
That's a good question.
Okay, all right. Say no
We can do another workshop, which would probably be less formal than this, back up on the top like we did the first one, just to do the rest of the puts and takes, like the community service taxes and that sort of thing. So it'd probably be just a short one overview on that. And at that point, maybe if you have something hammered out, you can try to figure out how we're gonna do it at that time. And then in September would be the actual budget hearing.
Okay, thank you. We have another commissioner who has a request. Commissioner Bruner?
Yes, I wanted to go forward with the 50,000 for the Arts Council. I asked Nancy to come, just in case you might have a question or something. But, and plus she asked her to give me the pointer to read to you. But with me and with the Arts Council and our CRA and our wonderful town, what we've done and how far we've come, I just feel that it's so important that more to be involved with the arts and to help them and to say we were part of it. We're like, we bring a lot of wealthy people here, and more see what we've done as we've grown and all we've done with art and private people have given like the statues and stuff. And I think that this can be, what this is gonna be is public and private people putting the money together. But I just want, it's not a large amount of money. I'd love to go for 100,000, but I feel that 50,000 is very small. And I would like to read this, because she can say it much better for me than sit up here and talk. Hold on a second, I guess I lost it. I apologize.
Maybe we can get Milton to help
Okay.
you.
But anyway, it preserves the historical Art Deco building, grounds creating a regional destination, and I can't wait to get this done, to see that building. It's gonna take several years, I'm sure. Foster public interaction with local artists, including showings, demonstrations, and classes. Incorporate a smart technology space to be shared among tenants, organizations, and visitors. Serve as an anchor for downtown expansion. Something that people are gonna come here and say, wow, look at Stuart, it's even better and better every time I come. It's wonderful, you know, the culture and everything that we're creating here.
Thank you.
No, I'm not through.
I was gonna ask Miss.
No, I'm not through.
Okay, thank you.
Be an incubator for interactions between the nonprofit community and the broader creative sector, and become the facility providing the arts and cultural infrastructure so essential to improving the lifestyle of all Treasure Coast residents. The vision was created with the input from many artists and organizations as a part of our team, including the Lyric, the Elliott, the Treasure Coast Community Singers, Visionary School of Art, Martin Artisans Guild, Treasure Coast Youth Symphony, Stuart Community Band, and Florida Arts and Dance, to name a few. Working together, this dream will become a reality in this community. And that building, they're gonna, the two buildings in front of that, they're gonna save those two. So that'll be all kinds of interactions and things going on. And I went to I had, I think it was it wasn't biology, chemistry. No, it wasn't. I was in 7th grade. Anyway, it was just something to do with rocks and all kinds of rocks.
Geology.
Yes, that was it. And it was just so special, you know, that you could say that. And there's so many people that went to that high school that are still alive. When the ladies were here 2 weeks ago at our meeting, half of them, they all meet on Wednesdays and talk, and they're all from here. And they all went to that school, but they left and took off. I was hoping they'd stay. But anyway, I would like your approval. I'd like your support. I'd like us all to be a part of this, not just me. I wanted to say, this is what we did. This is what the city of Stuart did. Don't mention me in any of it. And I think we'll be proud and glad that we did a start.
Thank you. Ms. Terrell, can you give us the acreage and the time frame, maybe what your board or your new board or your visionaries are trying to do with this older building? I don't think it's I'm not sure if it's designated as historic, but
Nancy, are you
this
okay?
building that has always been the high school and has been the superintendent's office and so on. Just very briefly, Ms. Terrell.
So quickly, the building was under construction in 1922. It opened as a school in 1923 and served this community until 1964 as a school, when Martin County High School over on Canner Highway opened, and it became an administrative center for the school board. The Division of Historic Resources at the state of Florida and the federal guidelines call any building over 50 years can be qualified for historic designation. The school board has never gone forward with filing for the National Historic Register documentation, but it would be something we would work with them to move forward on. We have just finished several months of due diligence with Straticon Construction, thanks to the generosity of their owners, Jeff and Chris Harden, and are awaiting those reports so that we can understand all the ramifications of what that building needs to have to make it renovated into this vision that Becky, Commissioner Bruner, has described to you today. You know, it is a couple of years away at least, probably 3 to 5, before it would be open and making a significant economic impact to the city of Stuart. The immediate plans are to raise the funds we need to do the architectural renderings and drawings, do feasibility study for the fundraising, because this will be built and renovated with both private and public dollars. We do have a state grant from the Division of Historic Resources for $50,000. And historically, cities, counties, federal government, state governments have invested in arts in their communities because they know the arts are a key part of making a community whole. It is a part of the fabric of our life. So investing in the arts, you've invested in the Lyric Theater in the past, you've invested in the old courthouse. There are many examples as to how the city has encouraged and nurtured the arts to thrive, and I hope that you will continue to do so for decades to come.
Thank you, Nancy.
And that $50,000 is a preliminary request just to show the city has support for your, is it something that you need now, or is it something that we could put in a budget in 2022 or 2023, or?
No, we need
The
it now.
immediate need is to have the funds we need to do the planning so that we can raise the rest of the money to do the renovation. So I would say that yes, there is an immediate need, but if there is not an immediate ability, if this project's not going away soon, there will be other places along the timeline where an investment can be made.
Are there any companion requests to the county and to other cities within Martin County?
This came as Commissioner Bruner did this unbeknownst to me at the time. So Commissioner Smith has been involved, and I know that the county will be supportive at some point in time with this project. He is working with me on that, and the state of Florida has already invested.
Thank you so much.
Yep.
Thank
Is
you,
there
Nancy.
anybody, did you have a comment, Mr. Campenny? I saw
I'll
him.
write my comment, thank you.
Okay.
Of course he will.
Miss, did you have a comment, Mr. Darren?
No, I was just gonna turn the mic on.
Beware, Miss McBride.
It's okay. I just thought you're like my mother. I always have to tell my mother my name too. I think we should donate this $50,000. I just finally got company coming back. I always bring everyone that visits me up to the arts. Now, I'm not an artist. I can't draw a straight line, Commissioner Bruner said, I talked to the old timers. That was their high school. My high school got torn down. It brings back a lot of memories, even for people like me, Gator and the pond, and all. It's downtown Stuart. Remember, we are an historic town. And I also, first I want to thank you, Mayor, and the rest of the commissioners for not voting for those 2 designs that they showed us. It just shows you that you people do love the arts. But, you know, it's my money, so I'm willing, as long as Mike's got $50,000.
She might go on a trip.
Can't go, Mike, we're giving it to the arts. Thank you.
Thank you. Hold on, Mr. Meyer. Mr. Meyer's gonna make a comment, sir. Mrs. Nancy. Okay, go on, Mr. Meyer. I have to think of what I was gonna ask Mrs. Mrs. Terrell, are you planning to have, you have a regular capital campaign?
Yes, we will.
Are you planning to have a special capital campaign, especially among those old timers who meet on Wednesdays, like Miss Becky says?
Yes.
Mrs. Bruner?
Yes, the alumni are a key part of that.
The alumni from the high school.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. Mr. Meyer?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So just to clarify, Ms. Terrell, state grant, 50,000, you're working with the county, that they have signaled potential support at some time. working for private donors. What's the total cost you've anticipated for the initial design spec you need to begin fundraising?
To begin,
You need the mic,
microphone's
Miss,
not up over
Miss,
there anymore.
she needs a mic, clerk.
If you would maybe appear.
Maybe you could sit beside Mr. Moglioli.
Have a seat.
He's got money in his pocket.
Have to.
$6 million check, I think.
Small The reports that we're waiting on from Straticon Construction will really give us an idea of what the total cost of the project's gonna be. I mean, I've heard estimates as low as $5 million and as high as $12 million. This initial phase with the architectural renderings, feasibility study, and some other related costs is about $200,000.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank
Miss Terrell knows that I've also served on the Arts Council, and we've thought about the expansion of the gazebo, the building, and doing other things, and now this new plan is there. Mrs. Bruna has come, Commissioner Bruna has come with this idea. City managers, it's something that we look over and come back, or do we, is Ms. Bruna, are you making a motion, or city manager, can you give us some guidance?
He gave us the
Yes, I'd like to make a motion.
So there's two parts to this, because you had asked if this was an immediate need or not. So one is, are you asking for me to bring back, to find the funds now and bring back a budget amendment in this current fiscal year, or are we planning to put this in for the October 1 fiscal year? That would be my first question, and then if there's a motion that passes, I'll make it
I
happen.
suggest in the future, but I don't know what motion Ms. Bruna has made.
Well, I would like to get the funds between now and December.
But it will sit,
Well,
Miss,
the
it
October
will
1's
sit,
the date.
it will sit, Miss Terrell, it will be sitting for 5 years, 3 years?
Well, no, they'll be planning and
No.
stuff. I mean, the construction she's talking
Okay,
about.
so you'll
Yeah,
need
the-
that money.
The planning, yeah, and we're still working on those timelines because we're still waiting on all the reports. But my best guess is that the next 18 months will be very heavily involved in the planning and making all the final architectural renderings and drawings and securing all the contracts we need along with the fundraising. I think the earliest date the construction would start is probably starting from that 18-month period forward to within 3 years.
Mrs. Brunner, Commissioner Brunner, are you asking for up to 50,000 or 50,000 to be, for the city manager to bring that to us as to where that we may get the money from?
Yes, Mayor, I would like to make a motion for our next meeting, for you to find the $50,000 for us, and for right now, in this fiscal, and we'll take a vote.
Is there a second to Commissioner Brunner's motion? Hearing no second, I think the motion dies. Would someone else like to make another motion, or would Mrs. Brunner like to make another motion as to another time frame or another number?
Well, let me try again. I make a motion that we have the funds, no, it wouldn't work either. Well, I wanted to get
I'll
started.
make a comment, but I don't have a motion.
Yeah, go
But I'll
ahead.
explain my thoughts on this.
Yes, sir.
I'll do my best not to compare it to my top priority, because the arts is certainly a priority. I toured the building yesterday with my mother and my daughter. My mom raised me to be extremely involved in the arts. She ran the Studio Arts Center in Stuart for years and then donated it to the Elliott Museum. Right now, for the city to get involved, I believe it is a little preliminary. For one, there are just way too many unknowns. My desires were just kind of pushed back by the amount of unknowns in my earlier thought of a motion about what the fund would create. For one, the school board owns the building. There is not a lease ironed out right now. So I'm hesitant for the city, a government agency, to invest in whether it's a nonprofit or a building that the school board owns. You know, that'd be one big area where we need some questioning. And then two, there is a wide range, and the council doesn't even have the reports back from Stratacom of the amount of money in their preliminary studies of what would need to be done to the building. I'm aware of what the city has invested in the cultural courthouse now. I know that there's an $81,000 line budgeted item for an elevator, I believe, space with the cultural courthouse. So I'm not saying, I'm certainly.
I'm sorry, that's not for the culture courthouse, that's for the.
The courthouse commons.
Courthouse Commons, sorry.
That's a different building.
Yep,
City
I
Hall.
apologize. I'm aware of what the city, I got those mixed up, has invested in the cultural courthouse in the past. And I'm not saying those were bad investments, but, you know, I'd like the city of Stuart to be cognizant of what we're getting into and know a little bit more information before we even go down this route. This is something that I see the Tourist Development Council absolutely supporting, and I am proudly serve on that board as a representative of the city of Stuart. But at this point in time, I just don't have enough information about the entire package and deal to make any movements.
All right, I want to let Mr. Meyer speak, but I'm just going to say one little thing before. As you all know, that I'm very, very involved with the arts. I've done a lot of things. And I've talked to Mr. Krowski when Mr. Krowski first wanted to put underwater ideas for tourists to come and do things and all kinds of stuff. But we don't have an arts budget at the city. And I've talked to Alice Lockhart, I've wanted to have our information cataloged and work along with the people at the feed store, and to catalog and to do photographs and to do some things similar to some of the things that Mr. Krowski is trying to capture in Stuart Life on a basis where we're showing some things. But I really, of course, I appreciate the arts. I don't know if we can do it right now, Ms. Bruner, if we need to look into it and get it on another year's budget or something, and I appreciate all your efforts and the planning. But maybe we can look at something to see did the county dedicate money? I know you got out of getting money from the county some years ago.
To sort of support Commissioner Matheson's comments, right now, we're still in the very preliminary research gathering phase, so we've not made formal requests other than to the Division of Historic Resources for planning grant money, because that's the stage that we are in.
So we have time,
There's
to get.
time.
Okay, Mr. Meyer?
Thank you. Yeah, I'm right there with you, Vice Mayor. I just want to see a little bit more. We're guarding, the wallet of the community. And Commissioner Bruner, I really appreciate you bringing this to us. I appreciate how excited you are about it. I just got a old negative from my grandmother who went to grade school there in the 40s, which I should have brought today. It's a great historic building, and for me, what I'm most interested in, historic preservation is important, but what I'm most interested in is seeing how this will kind of push the focus of downtown further down along Ocean. I want to see it be a spur for more revitalization of that corridor. So I think that, for me, I can make a case to the citizens that is an investment in our future. Just to tie it back to the CRA, we had a 7.72 increase in our general fund revenues, and we had a 22.9% increase in our TIF revenues this last year. So our investments in our CRA yield increasing property values, it yield development. So if we make a case for this with some better plans, if I can see some plans, I'd be super willing to do this. My other concern is, or potential idea is, right now we have $103,500 booked for aids to private orgs, including Main Street Fine, Downtown Business Association is zeroed out, IFAS, and Shared Services Network. So just tacking on $50,000, that's a 50% increase out of nowhere to our aids to private orgs. I mean,
Well, you could do
you
it
know,
over
we talked
time.
about Main Street before, Vice Mayor. I mean, I'd be willing to talk about making a plan to, like we were
Over
originally
time.
supposed to do, step down that over time and treat
Yeah.
this as an investment into a revitalization extension of downtown, potentially, in the next budget cycle.
And I think it should be vetted by the CRB possibly if it's gonna come out of CRA funds.
Okay, thank you.
No, this is in the City Commission General
Oh,
Fund.
okay.
Okay.
But I think CRA funds might be a better place. for
I
it.
will not make another motion, and I thank you for all your comments. I appreciate that. And Nancy, I hope we will see you again soon within the.
Full formal presentation when
I'd
we're
love to
ready.
see the presentation.
Yes,
Just,
that
would
one.
love
You'll
to
be
see some
back.
plans.
Well, I'll be here.
And I would
I'll be fighting for you.
encourage any of you that have the time to get in touch with Nancy and see if you can tour the building. It was a very worthwhile tour, although I carried my daughter asleep in my arms the whole time. It was a little sore afterward. But glad you brought up Main Street. If you want to shift the conversation, Commissioner Meyer. You know, I agree with you. I'd like to see flexibility in our aids to the private organizations. And in my mind, I don't want to always increase those aids. You know, if we were going to shift some of that money to the Arts Council for a period of time, that would be okay. As long as, you know, we weren't just adding on to that. If we were shifting some of that money, would be my thought and goals. I'd like to have these aids, in a way, have a plan to be reduced year over year. And I believe that was the original discussion, or the plan about 2 years ago, as you brought up last year during the budget conversations with Main Street. You know, I could be okay with where it stands now in the budget, but I'm foreshadowing that, you know, I'd like to see, and have been in discussions with some of the Main Street board members, a plan to reduce that to a certain point. Knowing that Main Street can use the Green Market and the Flagler Center, and knowing now, well, every week it changes, but knowing that 3 or 4 weeks ago, we were kind of on the tail end of coming out of COVID, you know, but my thought with our service agreement with Main Street would be, one, I'd like to see a plan set that would be evaluated every year to see where we are, but with clear goals, clear reduction goals in our aid to them.
Thank you for the discussion. Ms. Bruno, are you accepting this discussion and will not be making any further motion, or are you still making a motion?
no.
She said she.
No.
Okay,
Thank you, honey.
thank you. City Manager,
We're all set.
Budget Director?
Can I address the Stuart Main Street
Yes.
situation?
Yes, Mr.
I would just mention that, you know, first of all, we just had a discussion about CRA funds being up 22%, I think is the number, correct? And Panal's not here, I don't think, but I would guesstimate that the bulk of that in the most recent years has been from Colorado Avenue. The improvements on Colorado Avenue and the significant appreciation in the property values on Colorado, let alone some of the other CRA areas that have been improved over the years. All a result of the input that Stuart Main Street had. So when you look at Stuart Main Street isn't a cost. It has never, we have helped raise revenue for this city consistently for 20 years. And we're a partner in this, with the city, in generating those kind of revenues. And, you know, sometimes they're not always evident day to day, but we have created and helped contribute a significant amount of resources to the city. And we continue to offer ourselves and are an opportunity for the city to use us to make change. whether it's the market, the downtown market, Flagler Center. We've made Flagler Center much more available to nonprofits than it ever was before. But, so I just want you to understand that, we're not a cost. We're a benefit in the long run to the city. And the things that we can do, in most of the places where Main Streets are successful, a third of their funding comes from the city directly, that they're connected with. And that's all we're really asking here, is in the past, a third has come from membership and sponsorship, a third comes from other activities and things that we do, and a third has come from the city. So, but we do want to be a partner and play a role that's meaningful to the city. So we don't want to have a plan that's just a justification for why we're paid something. We want to be able to do something that continues to help generate revenue for the city. So just keep that in mind. We're not a cost. We really want to be here to help this city generate future revenue.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Brickbrill. Are there?
I would like to add
I
to.
have a question, Mr. Breckville.
Sure.
Is Main Street's budget now over 200,000?
It has historically been. It is not currently at that level. We normally have generated a significant amount of money from fundraising, which we lost. We haven't been able to do any of that for 2 years now, really. And so that usually generates about $100,000 to $120,000. Our budget, when you look at the total over the, prior to COVID and in that period of time, was about $280,000. Most of that money was raised by us. A small portion of it, about $70,000, was from the city, and a large portion of that was really the allocation of a city employee's salary to be our manager, which was very helpful because we have to have a full-time manager. But yes, our budget normally is in excess of 200, but it is not right now. Not now.
Commissioner Bruner,
No.
Commissioner Meyer, Commissioner McDonald.
Move to adjourn.
Okay. I believe that we're going to adjourn, City Manager.
Yes, ma'am.
Meeting adjourned. Thank you.